Chapter 1771. A paramount mountain divine halo hovered above Enlin's head, exuding a godly aura that forced all things to submit to him. There were 3 flawless white pieces of jade around his body, all of which were exuding dazzling light. The ancient Fian Celestial's unease stemmed from those 3 pieces of white jade. One piece of white jade suddenly transformed into a gust of wind that blew for thousands of kilometers before converging upon the jade, transforming it into the paramount wind between heaven and earth. A piece of white jade transformed into a golden ball of lightning. The golden lightning seemed as if it wanted to split apart everything, tear everything apart. As soon as it appeared, tens of thousands of lightning bolts rumbled in the sky, as if celebrating the birth of a supreme king. Another piece of white jade transformed into a red metallic material, and all the weapons on the ancient battlefield began to tremor and vibrate as they welcomed the arrival of the ruler of all weapons. Each and every one of these Tao jades struck the ancient Fiend Celestial with an extremely unsettling feeling. The ancient Fiend Celestial could sense the exact same aura as the one being released by the divine halo from all of these pieces of jade. This was a paramount power of laws and authority that reigned supreme over this entire world. One such power was already giving him a massive headache, but now 3 more had appeared. Even though their auras appeared to be slightly weaker than the divine halo above his head, they were still top-tier powers. Ancient Fiend Celestial, let me show you just how evenly matched we are. Enlin waved a hand through the air, and the divine halo and Tao jades above his head both glowed with scintillating light. The ancient Fiend Celestial was struck by a sense of lethal peril, and his inky green devilish essence power erupted from his body again before pouncing toward Enlin. This was a power that could pierce through the essence of Tao, and it could even temporarily disregard space. Hence, from Enlin's perspective, it looked as if he had reached him in the blink of an eye. Die! The ancient Fiend Celestial's claws were imbued with devilish essence power, and they transformed into heaven-severing demonic blades that descended upon Enlin at an extremely fast speed. Enlin didn't do anything, but the divine halo above his head glowed with scintillating light as a suit of earthy armor appeared over his body. When the might was released, the true meaning was as thick and heavy as a towering mountain that reached the heavens. The ancient Fiend Celestial's claw crashed into the mountain, but even though it was extremely powerful, it was unable to completely destroy the mountain. All it did was crack open the earthy yellow armor around Enlin's body. At this time, Enlin's lightning Tao jade suddenly flashed. A bolt of golden void lightning pierced through space before striking the ancient Fiend Celestial's body, puncturing his protective demonic essential power before blasting a massive hole into his heart. This was a flaw that Enlin had discovered during his battle with the ancient Fiend Celestial. The ancient Fiend Celestial's control over his demonic essential power was actually still very rusty. When he used his demonic essential power to attack, the defensive demonic essential power would become extremely weak, and that was the perfect time to attack. Almost at the same time, the metal Tao jade flashed with red light. A crimson piece of metal suddenly appeared in the air. This was a material that even the ancient Fiend Celestial had never seen before. This material was more fearsome than any metal that he had ever seen before. The metal was imbued with the power of laws, and it tore through the ancient Fiend Celestial's demonic essential power before crashing down upon his head. If everything went according to plan, the ancient Fiend Celestial would be sliced in half. However, the ancient Fiend Celestial reacted in the end, and he raised his left arm in front of his head in this dire situation. The crimson blade tore through the demonic essential energy before striking the ancient Fiend Celestial's arm, but it was slowed down by the arm's resistance. The ancient Fiend Celestial had already retreated to avoid being sliced in half when the crimson blade completely sliced through his arm. However, before he had a chance to do anything else, the power unleashed by the wind Tao jade crashed down from the sky. This was boundless wind pressure that was omnipresent, and the earth instantly caved in for several hundred meters. The ancient fiend celestial had no way of evading, and he was slammed into the ground as all of his internal organs were pulverized by the extreme wind pressure. The ancient fiend celestial had only just begun their battle, and he was immediately made aware of the disparity between him and Enlin. In this state, Enlin was able to use 4 different powers of the heavenly gods at once. He felt as if he were facing 4 Enlins at once, and the ancient fiend celestial's claim that he had a 50-50 chance of victory was nothing more than a joke. He only had a 50-50 chance of victory against one of the ancient fiend celestials. But now, there were 4 Enlins in the distance. The Pegasus true demon, the demonic maiden, and the holy demon were waiting for the ancient fiend celestial to take care of Enlin, and expressions of incredulity appeared on their faces upon seeing the ancient fiend celestial being suppressed by Enlin. How could this be? The ancient fiend celestial has already unleashed his demonic essential power. That's the paramount power of the demon tribe. Why is he still being suppressed by that human? That's impossible. The Pegasus true demon's teeth chattered. Just who is this human cultivator? What kind of power did he use? MOG, who had turned into a pool of blood, asked while trembling. Not only were the enemies in shock and disbelief, but even his teammates were also given a fright. Black Spirit Snake and the others had thought that Enlin had already unleashed all of his power when he was crushing the 3 Dao integration stage super mighty figures. Who would have thought that he would still have trump cards up his sleeves? Isn't this the equivalent of 4 heavenly gods fighting a half-step god of creation stage, true demon? Lu Qianhuan suddenly felt like the ancient fiend celestial had been through a lot. He had finally managed to use his demonic essential power to take care of Enlin's physical body and Enlin's consciousness. But now, Enlin had summoned 3 heavenly god jades, thereby elevating the situation to 4 against 1. The ancient fiend celestial was in complete despair. It had clearly already brought out its most powerful trump card, but Enlin also had a trump card, and he was being pummeled by Enlin as soon as he revealed his trump card. Roar, you forced me to do this. I'm going to show you how I killed the spirit patriarch. A deranged expression appeared on the ancient fiend celestial's face, and he pressed his hands against the ground to support his battered body. In the sky above, the wind Dao jade continued to rotate rapidly, and the wind pressure continued. However, the ancient fiend celestial managed to stand up under his own power and slowly pulled out a slightly curved bone spike from his storage ring. The bone spike exuded an ethereal aura that did not belong to heaven and earth. It was like a wisp of mist and didn't explode, but it was imbued with irresistible power. Even the wind pressure created by Enlin's heavenly god of wind faltered slightly in the face of this aura. The Pegasus true demon in the distance had also sensed the changes taking place on Enlin's battlefield. An expression of shock and panic appeared on its face at the sight of the bone spike in the ancient fiend celestial's hand. Master, ancient fiend celestial, please calm down. Using the primordial bone spike right now will result in severe backlash to your consciousness and Dao Foundation. You're in a critical juncture of God creation, so you can't use it no matter what. I don't have time to worry about that. If I want to kill Enlin, I have to use this weapon. The ancient fiend celestial's essential power and the power within his body began to flow into the bone spike like a tidal wave. His muscles quickly withered, but his eyes were bloodshot as a crazed expression appeared on his face. I just want him to die. A sense of peril welled up in Enlin's heart again. This sense of peril was even more pronounced than when the ancient fiend celestial unleashed his demonic origin energy. The spine-like bone spike was originally translucent and spotlessly white, but after the ancient fiend celestial injected his Genesis chi and power into it, its color began to turn azure. It began to frantically devour and absorb all of the ancient fiend celestial's power, as if it had awakened. The power of the bone spike soared explosively once again, and the wind pressure was kept at bay by an invisible force field within a radius of 10 feet from the ancient fiend celestial. Enlin's heart throbbed with fear upon seeing this. I can't let myself be struck by that strange bone spike. This was his body. It was his most instinctive intuition that emerged from the unseen world. Chapter 1772. The bone spike had turned into a dark green color and was flashing like a star. Ripples that resembled the beating of a heart surged through the air. This strange bone spike was most likely the key to killing the spirit patriarch, and Lin could sense that the ancient fiend celestial's aura had become extremely feeble, as if he had been severely wounded. At the same time, he could sense that the bone spike was becoming more and more powerful, as if it had transformed into a peculiar life form. What happened next confirmed Lin's suspicions. The bone spike let loose a cry of contentment that was close to a moan. What a delicious power! Not only is it imbued with pure essential power, but it also contains the power of Tao and bloodline that I like very much. You successfully satisfied my wish, and now I can satisfy your wish as well. Tell me, what do you want me to do? A clear male voice sounded from the bone spike. Judging from the voice, this man was quite young, but his voice was imbued with a power that transcended beyond this world and was imbued with an immortal and eternal power. The ancient fiend celestial's voice was a little feeble and a little insane. I need you, boom, boom, boom. In the sky above, massive mountains crashed down, gale-force winds howled, swords fell like rain, and lightning crackled. 4 paramount powers of the heavenly gods erupted at the same time before crashing down upon the ancient fiend celestial. And Lin wasn't going to give them a chance to chat. He took this opportunity to unleash a barrage of attacks. Unleashing 4 powers of the heavenly gods at once was extremely taxing on his energy reserves, but this was the most powerful attack he had unleashed thus far, and he could insta-kill any being at the Tao integration pinnacle stage. Even the ancient fiend celestial wouldn't be able to withstand this attack. Whoosh! A streak of azure light tore through Lin's barrage of 4 powers of the heavenly gods at this moment. The ancient fiend celestial rose into the sky with the dark green bone spike in his hand. His body was riddled with wounds from being struck by the powers of the heavenly gods, and his aura was also extremely feeble. As opposed to saying that he was attacking Lin, it was more accurate to say that the bone spike was dragging the ancient fiend celestial's body toward Lin. Interesting. This is the power of the heavenly Tao, and it's the power of the main heavenly Tao. But you're a human. The male voice sounded from within the bone spike with excitement and hunger. And Lin's expression changed slightly, and his heart sank. This bone spike was not to be underestimated. It was clear that it had never seen a heavenly god before, but it was able to accurately identify the source of Lin's power after just one spell technique was unleashed. In the blink of an eye, the bone spike had already pierced towards him, and Lin's eyes narrowed. As he retreated, a wind barrier that could isolate all things appeared in front of him. Break! The tip of the bone spear emitted a strange power that even Lin couldn't understand. It shattered the supreme laws and pierced through the wind barrier. At this moment, Lin was using his golden void lightning to construct a lightning shield that could annihilate all things that trespassed upon it. The bone spur ignored him and continued to tear, then suddenly thrust forward. The ancient fiend celestial was in trouble now. The bone spur only knew how to attack, and it only wanted to stab Lin to death. As such, it didn't have any defensive measures in place, and the ancient fiend celestial was instantly charred black by the surrounding lightning. At this moment, the metal barrier had already been constructed, and Lin immediately diverted some of his power toward the ancient fiend celestial upon seeing this. The bone spur also tore the metal barrier in half. In that instant, there was no power that could keep the bone spur at bay. However, in the instant that the metal barrier was torn apart, it quickly healed itself. The metal was like a blade that was aimed at the ancient fiend celestial, who was holding the bone spur in his hand. The ancient fiend celestial's heart jolted with shock, and he tried to stop Lin, only to discover that his body was no longer under his control. No! Crack! The metal barrier closed. Half of the ancient fiend celestial's body was in front of the metal barrier, while the other half was behind the metal barrier. The body behind the metal barrier was still being dragged by the bone spur toward Lin with no regard for its own safety. Blood trickled from the corners of the ancient fiend celestial's lips, and he instantly ran out of blood. Die, die, die. I'll fulfill your wish and kill this human. Then I'll eat him. The Bone Spur's voice was tinged with greed as it dragged the ancient fiend celestial's body toward Enlin like a rag doll. Enlin was astonished. The ancient fiend celestial was already in such a sorry state, but the Bone Spur was still able to attack? Master Ancient Fiend Celestial, the heavenly horse roared with grief and indignation. Enlin, Su Xiaolan's heart was in her throat upon seeing this. Whoosh! The Bone Spur tore through Enlin's armor of mountain, but it didn't slow down by much. Even the powers of wind, lightning, metal, and mountain were unable to keep the Bone Spur at bay. The dark green blade continued onward toward Enlin's heart with unstoppable force. Enlin was struck by an unprecedented sense of crisis. He knew that if he were to be struck by this attack, he would be in grave danger even with his God of Creation stage life force. It's over. The Bone Spur hurtled toward Enlin's heart. Right at this moment, an inky black object appeared before it. Idiot! There's nothing in this world that can stop my attack. The Bone Spur chuckled coldly before stabbing viciously toward the inky black object. Crack, crack, crack! A sharp screeching sound erupted. When the Bone Spur struck the inky black object, the Bone Spur shuddered violently before bending at an exaggerated angle, as if it were about to snap its own bones. What? What's that thing? An incredulous voice sounded from within the Bone Spur. Its unstoppable momentum had been stopped. The thing that had stopped it was none other than the inky black brick. An enormous repulsive force erupted from the brick, sending Enlin flying through the air. However, no matter how hard the Bone Spur tried, it was unable to pierce through this mundane object. Impossible, impossible, impossible. There can't be anything in this world that's more powerful than me. The Bone Spur was unable to accept this situation. An expression of confusion appeared on the ancient fiend celestial's face. In his memory, the Bone Spur could even break through the Spirit Patriarch's defenses, so why couldn't it pierce through this brick? Furthermore, this was a brick that had no energy fluctuations whatsoever. It was as if he had picked up a random rock from the side of the road and blocked the attack of a being that was even more powerful than a God of Creation stage being. Glug, glug, glug. The Bone Spur frantically engulfed the ancient fiend celestial's power, and its power swelled explosively again as it stabbed the brick in a frenzy, pushing it for over 50 kilometers, but it was still unable to pierce through it. Stop sucking. The ancient fiend celestial was extremely emaciated, and he wanted to stop his spell technique and withdraw the Bone Spur. However, the Bone Spur had its own thoughts, and it refused the ancient fiend celestial's request before yelling at Enlin. This human cultivator must die. The Bone Spur circled around in the air before stabbing toward Enlin from the side. Enlin reacted extremely quickly, and he hurtled to the side with the brick in his hand. Block! Bam! Energy exploded forth. The Bone Spur bent at an exaggerated angle again, but it was still unable to pierce through the brick. The Bone Spur had gone berserk, and it kept changing its angle to stab toward Enlin. I block. Enlin adjusted the direction of his brick over and over again to block all of the bone spikes. Even though the Bone Spur's offensive prowess was unfathomable, its attacks were very simple, and Enlin's reaction speed was also quite fast, so the Bone Spur was completely unable to do anything to him. The first spurt of energy, the second decline, the third exhaustion. The Bone Spur had unleashed over 100 attacks at once, but it was still full of fighting spirit. However, the ancient fiend celestial was on the brink of death. Stop! A hoarse, beseeching voice sounded. The ancient fiend celestial only had half of his body remaining, and tears flowed down his face as he begged for his life. Chapter 1773. The ancient fiend celestial was truly regretting his decision. He didn't think that Enlin would be so difficult to kill. He had thought that Enlin would be dead after just a single stab, but he was still alive and kicking even after over 100 stabs. If he continued like this, he would definitely die from exhaustion even if Enlin didn't die. The bone spike's energy source was him, and as the bone spike continued to attack, its energy was constantly being depleted. Now that his body had been completely depleted, if the bone spike didn't give up, he would definitely die from exhaustion. The ancient fiend celestial had already yelled for the bone spike to stop. However, the bone spike's killing intent surged, and it still wanted to use Enlin's blood to prove itself. What kind of despair would it feel to be exhausted to death by one's own weapon? Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The bone spikes slashed through the air in a series of tricky trajectories toward Enlin. Enlin was filled with a sense of security as he held the brick. Block, block, block. The chaotic alloy brick really lived up to its description. The hardest brick in the world. The bone spike could break through its power of the heavenly gods, but couldn't break through its brick. The brick maintained its usual style of being low-key, reserved, and heavy. It was pitch black and reserved, shocking the world with a single brilliant feat. It had once again proven itself to be the hardest brick in the world. Roar! Let go of Master Ancient Fiend Celestial. The heavenly horse finally couldn't take this any longer, and it unleashed its star demon liquid toward the bone spike. However, the white liquid that could easily repel attacks from mighty figures at the Tao integration pinnacle stage was easily torn apart by the spear as if it were tearing through a piece of cheese. It then continued toward Enlin. Bam! 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 One earth-shattering collision after another. One unstoppable assassination attempt after another. All of them were kept at bay by the mundane-looking black brick. I hate you. The ancient fiend celestial's voice became softer and softer with grief and indignation. Fear appeared in his eyes. This was the fear of death. Never would he have thought that the one who would force him into a corner was not Enlin. Instead, it was his final trump card, the primordial bone spike. Die! The bone spear released a green light that was as bright as a rainbow, drawing a dazzling trajectory in the void. Bam! The bone spike once again stabbed into Enlin's black brick. This time, I will definitely pierce through you. The spine-like bone spur roared angrily and actually began to spin in a spiral like a drilling machine, madly drilling. The penetrative power of the brick began to increase significantly, and for the first time, the black brick let out a whimpering sound. Enlin's expression changed drastically. He could feel the killing power contained within the bone spear. Is it really okay? The ancient fiend celestial? Enlin asked with a concerned expression. The bone spur continued to spiral in a frenzy, and the ancient fiend celestial was naturally unable to shake it off. The mournful moans that floated in the air made the onlookers silent and the listeners weep. It's working. It's finally working. I can pierce through it. The bone spur said excitedly. Enlin had a master-servant relationship with the black brick, so he was naturally able to sense that the black brick had been damaged. This caused his heart to tremble violently. The black brick, which had always been the hardest in the world, had actually been damaged by a bone. He was surprised that the black brick could block Bonehead's attack. He was also surprised that the black brick couldn't block Bonehead's attack. Enlin's mind raced as he tried to think of another way to combat this enemy. All of a sudden, heaven and earth tremored violently. Cries of grief erupted throughout heaven and earth. An indescribable sense of grief welled up in everyone's hearts. Heaven and earth mourned the death of a Tao integration stage super mighty figure. Another Tao integration stage super mighty figure had fallen. Oh, who died? Su Xiaolan was given a fright. Which holy demon died? Lu Qianhuan continued to evade the star demon liquid as she surveyed the battlefield, only to find that the holy demon was still struggling with the assistance of the star demon liquid. All of the enemy powerful beings were also perplexed as they surveyed the battlefield. No Tao integration stage super mighty figure had fallen on this battlefield. However, a thought soon welled up in everyone's mind. All of the enemy powerful beings were horrified, and all of their allies were astonished. The bone spur's anguished wail also sounded. Why is it out of energy? The bone spike that was spinning suddenly stopped and then fell from the sky. Only half of its body remained, and it fell feebly to the ground like a rag. This was the ancient fiend celestial's body. His eyes were still wide open, and they were filled with remorse, pain, and indignation. His vitality had already disappeared. Everyone finally came to a realization. The one who had died was the ancient fiend celestial. Furthermore, it was so tragic. He actually died with his eyes wide open. Master Ancient Fiend Celestial. The heavenly horse roared with grief, and the star demon liquid around its body instantly exploded, sweeping up massive white waves that engulfed everything between heaven and earth. Black Spirit Snake, Lu Mingxian, and Lu Qianwan all hurtled back in retreat. A red figure charged toward the ancient fiend celestial without any regard for its own safety before cradling his plummeting body in her arms. The red figure had a slender figure, and her features were deathly pale. It was none other than the demonic maiden, who was riddled with wounds and had an extremely feeble aura. No, ancient fiend celestial, you'll be fine. There's no way you'll lose. You still have to rule over the entire demon tribe. You still have to take revenge on Cyril. Wake up. Tears of blood flowed from the demonic maiden's eyes as she wailed with anguish. However, there was no response no matter how hard she screamed. The ancient fiend celestial's expression of indignation and remorse was the only response she received. Soon, another anguished wail sounded. Heaven and earth wailed with grief again as another holy demon fell to Su Xiaolan's sword. The death of the ancient fiend celestial was a lethal blow to the true demons. All of the holy demons were loyal to the ancient fiend celestial, and now that their master had died, they had lost their pillar of support. All of their Tao hearts were either driven insane or completely drained of their will to fight. Soon, another holy demon fell to White Spirit Snake's hands. The final holy demon was also slain by Su Xiaolan. Su Xiaolan had completed a double kill. Only the heavenly horse and the demonic maiden remained on the battlefield. See you in the next life, Ancient Fiend Celestial. The demonic maiden stared at the man in her arms with deep emotion before stabbing a hand into her own heart. She let loose a muffled groan as her body gradually disintegrated into a puddle of blood as if it had been mortally wounded. At the same time, the ancient fiend celestial's body also melted into specks of dark green light that floated into the sky before disappearing. The heavenly horse had fallen into a state of mental breakdown, and it tried to take Black Spirit Snake and the others down with it. However, their opponents were already prepared, and the star demon liquid was unable to capture any of them. In the end, the heavenly horse's energy was completely depleted, and Black Spirit Snake took advantage of this opportunity to slice it into over 10,000 pieces. 6 Tao integration stage super mighty figures had fallen in quick succession. The divine Tao had been obliterated, and the grief of heaven and earth expanded over and over again until it enshrouded the entire spirit realm. And Lin sighed with emotion as he looked at the fallen super mighty figures. He didn't think that a powerful opponent like the ancient fiend celestial would die like this. Life and death really were unpredictable. If it weren't for those bone spikes, I probably wouldn't have been able to win so easily. And Lin sighed with emotion before turning his gaze toward the bone that lay silently on the ground. Chapter 1774. This strange bone was the ancient fiend celestial's most powerful trump card. However, it was Lin's best ally in this battle. In fact, it could be said that the ancient fiend celestial had actually been sucked to death by it, and Lin stared at the spine-like bone on the ground with a cautious expression before slowly approaching it with the black brick in his hand. Even though the bone's avatar was dead, it was still extremely dangerous. Perhaps it would jump up from the ground and stab him. The dark green energy quickly dissipated. The bone reverted back to its pristine white state without any energy fluctuations emanating from it. And Lin carefully inspected the bone on the ground. Its structure was extremely intricate, and its surface was as flawless as white jade. One could immediately sense its perfection and the ethereal feeling that it had transcended the great Tao of heaven and earth. He had seen the corpses of countless powerful beings. He had even seen the corpses of God of Creation stage beings like the Blood Patriarch and the Spirit Patriarch. However, he couldn't sense a sense of transcendence from this bone. The more I look at it, the more extraordinary it seems. And Lin gulped. After thinking for a moment, he materialized a massive vital energy hand before grabbing the bone from afar. The bone tremored lightly, and an ancient, seductive voice sounded beside Lin's ear. Fated One, do you have a wish? Do you want to fulfill it? If you give me your power, I can fulfill your wish. And Lin grimaced. What's with this Chinibu demeanor? He was clearly such a cool bone. So why didn't he do something that would lower his cool? He looked at the bone and didn't reply. The bone began to tempt him again. Do you have someone you hate? Or an enemy you can't defeat? I can take care of them for you. Accept me and offer yourself to me. After that, I'll fulfill your wish. What's your name? And Lin asked. Is that what you wish for? You want to know my name? The bone was full of temptation. Then offer your power to me. I'll satisfy you, and I'll satisfy you. And Lin, was there something wrong with this bone? Did he go crazy from wanting to devour power? Didn't he know that he had just emptied a half-step Genesis stage being? And Lin, what's going on with this bone? Su Xiaolan flew over from afar and looked at the bone in front of Lin with apprehension. She had witnessed just how uncanny and terrifying this bone was, and she felt like it was best to stay away from it. Otherwise, she could end up like the ancient fiend celestial. Lu Mingxian also flew over. His cold face was filled with seriousness. Fellow Taoist and Lin, you have to be careful of this bone. It's not as simple as just using it as a spear to stab people. I can sense that its sharpness is only one of its characteristics. White Spirit Snake also descended from the sky. Furthermore, this is the essential Tao bone left behind by a life form. And it's a life form of a very high level, so high that I'm unable to detect it. My level is indeed very high, which is why I can satisfy all of your wishes. The bone seemed to be able to communicate with others, and it continued to tempt everyone around it. And Lin heaved a faint sigh. So be it. I'll just use hacks. His eyes became pure white as he analyzed everything between heaven and earth. Divine inspection technique. A string of information appeared in his mind, and his heart skipped a beat. Essential Tao bone of the heavenly true immortal. The essential Tao bone condensed from the remains of the heavenly true immortal. The explanation was very simple, with only one sentence. However, the simpler the information, the more terrifying it was. This meant that even with the ability of the system, it was unable to detect anything else. However, what made Lin's heart skip a beat wasn't the fact that the information was too short. Instead, it was the fact that the information contained the essential Tao bone of the heavenly true immortal. He couldn't help but turn his attention to a mission on his system. High-rank war, God mystic technique, dark immortal transformation, obtain the essential skeleton of the heavenly true immortal. Wasn't that the essential skeleton of the heavenly true immortal right before his eyes? He had thought that the clues leading to the heavenly true immortal were in the ancient Tai Chu realm, and he would have to make a trip to the ancient Tai Chu realm in person in order to have a sliver of hope of finding the clue. This was a mission that was almost impossible for Lin to complete. However, to his surprise, the essential Tao bone appeared before him on its own before he even had a chance to find the essential skeleton. The essential Tao bone was a type of essential skeleton. It was an essential skeleton that contained the Tao realm of the main body, and it was of a higher level than the essential skeleton. It could be said that Lin had exceeded his expectations this time. The dark immortal transformation, a high-rank war god mystic technique. One had to realize that the origin energy of the netherworld was only an intermediate rank war god mystic technique, but it was already extremely useful and insane. It was the most powerful buff spell technique available. Now, the dark immortal transformation was a high-rank war god mystic technique. If he could obtain it, how much more powerful would he become? And Lin's breathing began to accelerate as he looked at the bone. This was a blessing from the heavens. His luck was too good. And Lin, what's wrong? Su Xiaolan was given a fright upon seeing Lin's eyes glowing with a green light, as if he were a hungry dog staring at a bone. Everyone was also looking at Lin with bewilderment on their faces. The bone didn't have a body, but it still felt a chill run down its spine. What do you want to do? Do you have a wish? The bone was very professional and was still trying to tempt him. I do have a wish. And Lin suddenly chuckled. The bone heaved a faint sigh of relief. Oh, give me your power. As long as you can satisfy my wish. There's no need for that. And Lin cut off the bone's words, and his mouth suddenly gaped open. My wish is to eat you. A vast suction force suddenly erupted from within his mouth. This was an extremely unfathomable suction force. This was the terrifying engulfment spell technique that the little whale in Lin's sea of vital energy had obtained after swallowing the chaotic nightmare monster. This spell technique could even devour a heavenly god. No! The bone wailed in anguish and tried to escape, only to find that it had no power to attach itself to, and it was instantly engulfed by the terrifying mouth before falling into eternal darkness. Burp. And Lin closed his mouth with a content expression. Su Xiaolan, Black Spirit Snake, White Spirit Snake, Lu Qianhuan, and Lu Mingxuan's mouths all gaped open in shock as they stared at the man before them. This was a bone that everyone had been avoiding as if it were a venomous scorpion. This was a bone that everyone, including Lin, was extremely wary of, but now it was suddenly eaten by Lin. And Lin, why you? Have you gone insane? Lu Qianhuan's eyes widened with excitement. Su Xiaolan was also a little taken aback. Why did you eat it? Are you all right? I'm fine. And Lin looked toward his system with an excited expression, only to be rooted to the spot. The system didn't notify him of mission completion. Chapter 1775. What was going on? He had clearly already consumed the essential Tao bone of the heavenly, true immortal. And Lin was completely perplexed. At this moment, a sharp pain suddenly erupted from his stomach. Ow, ow! And Lin gripped his stomach as he wailed in pain. Su Xiaolan and the others were given a huge fright by this turn of events. And Lin, hurry up and spit out the bone. Su Xiaolan urged in a panicked voice. I told you not to eat random things. Are you that greedy? Black Spirit Snake pursed her lips. Everyone hurriedly unleashed their powers to survey Lin's body, only to find that there was no bone within his body. Where's the bone? White Spirit Snake's expression shifted. Lin gripped his stomach. It's in my sea of vital energy. I feel like I'm having indigestion. The pain in my sea of vital energy is spreading into my stomach, and it feels so awful. Everyone drew a sharp intake of breath. Did I hear that right? Bones can be stored in one's sea of vital energy? Lu Mingxian was astonished. I knew that there was a Kirin baby named Lin in Lin's sea of vital energy, but who would have thought that he could store bones as well? Lu Qianhuan clicked her tongue in wonder. It's not just a Kirin baby. There's a phoenix and a little whale in his sea of vital energy as well. Su Xiaolan heaved a forlorn sigh. Black Spirit Snake, Lu Mingxian, and the others were all astonished. Say, Senior Lin, how are you feeling now? White Spirit Snake couldn't help but ask with concern after a brief moment of astonishment. And Lin was still gripping his stomach with a pained expression as he shook his head. The bone is too powerful, and my sea of vital energy is unable to repress it, which is why my body is rejecting it. What do we do then? Su Xiaolan supported Lin with a concerned expression. It's all right. And Lin shook his head with a ferocious expression. I can repress it. At this moment, an earth-shattering battle was taking place within his sea of vital energy. An arrogant and unruly bone flew back and forth in the Qi Sea, trying to pierce through this space. Although it hadn't received Lin's acknowledgement, it was still able to forcefully absorb a small amount of energy from his Qi Sea and infuse it into his bones, then wreak havoc everywhere. It even wanted to pierce through the sun, hanging in the Qi Sea. The sun was the most important thing for Lin's advancement. How could Lin tolerate such a scene? He immediately issued an order for Kirin, the holy flame vermilion bird, and the little whale to join forces and subdue this annoying piece of sh*t. Just like that, a great battle broke out. Thunder rumbled, sacred flames surged, and the giant mouth opened wide. Even though the bone spikes were extremely powerful, and Kirin possessed the essence of lightning, the holy flame vermilion bird possessed the essence of fire, and the little whale was extremely proficient in the Tao of void and engulfment. Their combined strength was not inferior to Bonehead's. Most importantly, they could be reborn in Enlin's Chi Sea, so they had plenty of time to waste on the bones. His sea of chi surged and rumbled. Enlin wasn't having a good time either. The sharp tip of the bone really did seem like it was trying to pierce through the space around him. This was not an exaggeration. He could tell from a small dent on the black brick in his hand that the bone could do this. He immediately sat down to meditate and focused his attention on his sea of vital energy. Su Xiaolan and the others knew that Enlin was struggling with the bone in his sea of vital energy, so they stood guard and guarded him. White Spirit Snake seemed to have detected something good, and she dragged Black Spirit Snake to another place. In the next instant, they returned in high spirits with a trembling little blue star in their hands. "Look what we picked up." White Spirit Snake grinned. "A ball." Su Xiaolan's eyes lit up. How surprising. Why didn't it run away when no one was looking after it? This ball was none other than the shrunken demonic frost star. The demonic frost star was on the verge of tears upon seeing everyone's expressions. "Do you think I didn't want to run away? I finally managed to escape, only to be captured by the ancient fiend celestial, who forced me to become his steed. He even placed me nearby and used a restriction to bind me. The ancient fiend celestial died, but the restriction wasn't removed, and you discovered it." The demonic frost star turned to Enlin with a hint of fear in its eyes as it spoke. Enlin's power was simply far too freakish. To think that he could even slay the ancient fiend celestial. If Enlin was displeased with his decision to flee, then he would definitely suffer an extremely tragic fate. With this in mind, it immediately made a decision and crawled over to Enlin with a fawning expression on its face. "Big Boss Enlin, I've been completely won over by your power and charisma ever since I met you. Please give me a chance to follow you." It was most likely impossible for Enlin to let go of this runaway star. In order to avoid a situation where Enlin was displeased with him and decided to kill him as well, it was better to take a step back and express its loyalty so that Enlin would have a good impression of it. Enlin was clearly taken aback upon hearing this. Why did this star suddenly want to follow him? "You want to follow me? Why should I accept you?" Enlin asked. "Huh?" The demonic frost star was still in a daze. Wasn't it extremely prestigious to have a Tao integration stage super mighty figure as its follower? Why was he asking why? "The ancient fiend celestial has foreseen my future. I'm going to grow very, very big in the future, and I'm going to become a huge star. If you use me as your steed and conquer other worlds while standing on my back, wouldn't that be a great honor?" The demonic frost star brought up the ancient fiend celestial's desire to ride it. Everyone was astonished. Is he King retarded? Only an idiot would ride a star. That's not the point. The point is, how am I supposed to ride such a huge star? My butt is about to crack. You're trying to convince me with a reason like this? Do you think I'm an idiot? The demonic frost star is most likely an idiot, so don't accept it. The demonic frost star? Was there something wrong with this? It was a Tao integration intermediate stage super mighty figure, and it wanted to follow Enlin, only to be humiliated like this? The demonic frost star was enraged. You can kill this star, but you can't." All of a sudden, a series of sharp eyes focused on it. The demonic frost star choked halfway through its sentence, and it looked at everyone with an aggrieved and indignant expression. It was afraid that it would really become a star that could be killed, but not humiliated, after it finished its sentence. "There's actually one good thing about it," Su Xiaolan suddenly said. The demonic frost star shuddered, and it turned to Su Xiaolan with gratitude etched on its face. "See, there are still people who could recognize it." "What good thing?" Enlin asked. The demonic frost star straightened its body with a hint of pride and curiosity in its eyes. Su Xiaolan explained, "This thing is a little stupid and afraid of death, so it should be more obedient and easy to control after pledging its loyalty to you. That's a good thing." Boom! The demonic frost star felt as if it had been struck by lightning, and it almost threw up a mouthful of earth core. Lin's eyes lit up. Chapter 1776. That's a good thing. And Lin nodded slightly and said, I was initially planning to kill you and end this once and for all. However, if you really want to follow me, I can give you a chance. The demonic frost star was on the verge of a mental breakdown. Never would it have thought that it would be able to survive only because it was stupid and cowardly enough. It was a mighty star with the universe in its heart. Its intelligence alone was enough to crush countless stars in the starry sky. But there was someone looking down on its intelligence now. How about this? Establish a slave contract with me and become my servant. Lin nodded. A contract? The demonic frost star shuddered. No sh*t. You're a void spirit tribe, super mighty figure. How are you going to be safe without a contract? Lin spoke with a serious expression. He had already thought it through. After putting away the demonic frost star, he was going to give it to Bai Ling and Su Xiaolan to train before officially using it. Thinking about it, he didn't have a star-type pet yet, so he wanted one now. Then, the demonic frost star's heart was in turmoil. Lin was very powerful and had limitless potential, but the human race was currently being targeted by the heavenly human tribe and the heavenly gods. If he were to join a race that would be doomed sooner or later and oppose the heavenly Tao and the void spirit tribe, if he were to fail, his fate would definitely be even more miserable than it was now. Have you made up your mind? I don't have much patience. And Lin looked at the little star with an intrigued expression. I agree. The demonic frost star took a deep breath before replying with a serious expression. It had already made up its mind. It was going to live as long as it could. No one could predict what the future would bring. The most important thing was to live in the present. The demonic frost star was moved by its own optimism, and it flew toward Lin with an expression that seemed to have seen through everything in this world. Come, Master Lin. And Lin was a little surprised. They hadn't even established a contract, but it was already referring to him as Master. It looked like this little asterisk star was quite tactful. Immediately afterward, Lin dripped a drop of blood essence onto the demonic frost star's body. A mysterious connection was established between the man and the ball. The demonic frost star had officially become Lin's servant. Very good, you're my ball from now on. A satisfied expression appeared on Lin's face as he picked up the demonic frost star and kneaded it affectionately. It was a little cold, as if he was squeezing a rough ice ball. The demonic frost star had also resigned itself to its fate. Not only was it not enraged by Lin's words, it even offered a fawning expression. It is my greatest fortune to be able to follow Master Lin. And Lin nodded in satisfaction. Since it's my ball, I'll give you a nice name. Sure. The demonic frost star was extremely elated. This meant that Lin's recognition of it was one step closer, because a name could shorten the distance between them. You are a very rare planetary life form. You are extremely cold, mysterious, and intelligent. Why don't I call you? Lin thought about it carefully. The demonic frost star raised its guard. Lin's eyes lit up. I'll call you Little Star. Everyone suddenly fell silent. Su Xiaolan couldn't help but burst into laughter. The demonic frost star, what the hell? Didn't you hear me? I'll call you Little Star. Lin enunciated each word carefully. Me? Little Star? The demonic frost star's body trembled violently, and smoke rose from the volcanoes around its body as if they were about to erupt at any moment. It glared at Lin, and it accidentally made eye contact with Lin. Finally, it said, all right, that's a good name. The word little in the name, Little Star, fully expresses the nostalgia for the old days, as well as the longing for the future. The word star is even simpler, encompassing all the stars within it. It indicates the limitless possibilities of my development on the path of stars. What a wonderful name. And Lin blushed. It's not that good. It's that good. The demonic frost star was extremely excited. And Lin turned to Su Xiaolan, Black Spirit Snake, and the others. I don't think Little Star is as dumb as you make it out to be. Everyone, after putting away Little Star, and Lin entered a meditative state again. His stomach didn't hurt as much anymore. Perhaps it was because the essential Tao bone in his sea of vital energy had focused all of its energy on attacking Enkirin, the holy flame vermilion bird, and the little whale. The tide of the battle had already turned. The bone spike in his spine was gradually being overwhelmed, and it switched from defense to offense. Bolts of terrifying lightning crashed into the bone spike. Scorching holy flames burned the bone spike without causing it any pain. Vast spatial power twisted and distorted the bone spike in a frenzy. Attack after attack, wear and tear after wear and tear, the bone spur began to be unable to endure. The bone spike began to speak in an extremely seductive voice. You're all pitiful beings who have been trapped in your sea of vital energy. Don't you want to see the outside world? Boom, 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 boom. And Kirin, the holy flame vermilion bird, and the little whale didn't say anything as they continued to pummel the bone spike. Let's end this meaningless battle. As long as you grant me your power, I can break open your sea of vital energy and grant you eternal freedom. The bone spike spoke with difficulty. Boom, 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 boom. And Kirin, the holy flame vermilion bird, and the little whale continued to pummel the bone spike. The outside world is much more vast than this sea of vital energy. It's very, very big, and there are all types of fun things to do. Don't you want to see the outside world? The bone spike's body trembled violently as it spoke in a loud voice. Boom, boom, boom. The three powerful beings of the sea of vital energy continued to bombard the bone spike. Kacha, the translucent surface of the bone spike, was suddenly shattered by Enkirin. The translucent bone shard was sucked into the sea of vital energy by a peculiar power. The bone spike faltered initially before its body trembled violently, as if it had encountered something extremely infuriating. Stupid C asterisk and T. Are you all stupid C asterisk and TS? Boom, boom, boom. Lightning fell, holy flames swept forth, and space twisted and warped. The three powerful beings of the sea of vital energy were having a great time. Ding dong. A chime suddenly sounded in Enlin's mind. Enlin was ecstatic, and he abruptly opened his system. Sure enough, there was progress on the high-rank mystical technique Dark Immortal Transformation mission. Consumed the essential remains of a heavenly true immortal. Mission progress, 1 out of 100. He had been paying close attention to his sea of vital energy this entire time, and he knew that this was because a portion of the bone spike had been destroyed, which had flowed out of his sea of vital energy and fused into his body. During this process, not only had his system undergone a change, but his body had also undergone a change. A series of crackling sounds erupted as the bones in his body underwent an indescribable transformation. His bones became more compact, and their structure also underwent a miraculous transformation as they were fine-tuned to a state that was most suitable for his current power level. The energy imbued within them became purer and more abundant, and they even possessed the ability to rapidly regenerate and become indestructible. All of these changes were not just external changes. They were also metamorphosing at the genetic level, the life level, and the Tao realm level. He felt like once he completely absorbed the essence of the bone, not only would he be able to obtain the Dark Immortal Transformation spell technique, but he would also be able to elevate his body to new heights. After a while, Enlin opened his bright eyes and stood up. It's done. Let's get out of this sh*TTY place. Chapter 1777. Everyone heaved a heavy sigh of relief upon seeing that Enlin was fine. Only 1% of the essential Tao bone had been digested, and according to Enlin's calculations, it would take around 1 to 2 months for the essential Tao bone to be completely digested. In other words, the Dark Immortal Transformation was a high-rank mystic technique for him. Everyone made their way out of the ancient battlefield and began to roam the spirit realm on the demonic frost star. Their objective had changed from treasure hunting to exterminating enemies. The Void Spirit Tribe was one of the heavenly human tribe's subordinate forces, so Enlin and the others decided to take advantage of the opening of the spirit realm to destroy the Void Spirit Tribe. They rampaged through the spirit realm, destroying anyone they encountered. In just a few days, the number of experts they had killed was uncountable. Unlin and the others were invincible in the spirit realm. Even the half-step god of creation stage, ancient fiend celestial, couldn't stop them. So what powerful being could stand up to them? Unless it was a god of creation, all of them would be nothing more than cannon fodder for Enlin and the others. Within the dark wind realm. This was a place where dark winds that could suck away life force blew all year round. Living beings with low cultivation bases wouldn't even be able to last a single breath here before their life force was sucked away by the dark winds, and their bodies would wither and wither to death. At this moment, an intense battle was taking place here. The power of white holy light clashed with relentless soul power, and heaven and earth rumbled as energy exploded forth, almost dispelling the dark winds in the surrounding area. A powerful woman with a pair of white wings on her back was fighting a group of Void Spirit Tribe powerful beings with a golden holy sword in her hand. Her appearance was pure and holy, and her figure was tall and slender. Beneath her white holy dress was a pair of snow-white, well-proportioned long legs, and her full chest was gently swaying along with the intense battle. Fine sweat appeared on her fair and tender face, and her heavy expression indicated that she was not in a good situation in this battle. Aside from her, there was also a tall and handsome man with a pair of white wings on his back who was fighting alongside her. Both of them were returned to Void Stage mighty figures, but they were facing a dozen or so powerful Void Spirit Tribe powerful beings, and they could be defeated at any moment. Cuckoo. Surely, August, the Dark Wind Plains will be your burial ground. A Void Spirit Tribe returned to Void Stage mighty figure with green, flames burning all over his body, cackled sinisterly. August sent the two Void Spirit Tribe powerful beings flying with an enraged expression. Spirit King Aohua, I have no intention of fighting with the Void Spirit Tribe. All I want is to find the vital, dream divine flower. There's no conflict between us, so why are you forcing me? No, I think you've misunderstood something. Spirit King Aohua pounced toward August as his green flames transformed into a series of ghostly claws that were engraved with mysterious vein patterns. We want to kill you, but it has nothing to do with what you're trying to do. It's all because we think it's fun. Ha ha ha, indeed. Kill, kill, kill. I've never tasted the flesh of a light wing clan return to Void Stage mighty figure before. I'm going to reserve that light wing clan female's thigh. She's white and tender, so she'll definitely be delicious. All of the Void Spirit Tribe powerful beings chortled with glee. F*CK. Shirley gritted her teeth. What a bunch of lunatics. At this moment, a blue soul saber flashed toward Shirley like a bolt of lightning. Shirley's expression shifted, and she immediately swung her sword to defend herself, only to be knocked flying by the saber. A gash appeared on her snowy white arm. Lunatics? A Void Spirit Tribe mighty figure with the head of a wolf and the body of a ghost licked the blood-stained soul saber in his hand with narrowed eyes. No, we're very clear-headed. We're the saber anyway, and you're the meat on the chopping block. What's wrong with us killing you for fun? Shirley's chest trembled with rage upon hearing this. At this moment, a few Void Spirit Tribe powerful beings pounced toward her again. Shirley and August looked at each other, and both of them could see the intent to retreat in each other's eyes. They had to find an opportunity to escape. Otherwise, they were going to be beaten to death. Right at this moment, the temperature between heaven and earth suddenly plummeted. Frost and ice began to form on the ground. Immediately afterward, a terrifying aura swept toward them. Shirley and August's expressions became even more horrified. This was a Tao integration stage super mighty figure, and it was a Void Spirit Tribe Tao integration stage super mighty figure at that. All of the Void Spirit Tribe powerful beings became extremely excited. It's the demonic frost star. The demonic frost star is here. Ha ha ha. Shirley's features turned deathly pale as she looked up at the star that had almost obscured the entire sky. If she had used her trump card, she would still have had a chance to escape. Now that a Tao integration intermediate stage super mighty figure had appeared, How was she supposed to escape? An expression of despair appeared on August's face as he heaved a faint sigh. Is this our fate? As expected, venturing into the spirit realm to search for the vital dream, divine flower, is too dangerous for us. Right at this moment, the massive star had already begun to exhale frosty energy. The frosty energy transformed into an extremely solid sword projection that descended from the sky, as if it were going to destroy heaven and earth. Ha ha ha! Does the demonic frost star want to get involved as well? The demonic frost star is here, so this delicacy is naturally going to be yours. Just don't forget to leave some soup for us. Spirit King Ao was still chuckling when he saw the sword projection fall a little off course. Splat! The sword projection pierced into his body, and the terrifying power of frost was disintegrating his consciousness. Did you miss the target, demonic frost star? Spirit King Ao was stared up at the massive star in the sky with a confused expression. Soon, the surrounding void spirit tribe powerful beings also began to wail in anguish. All of the sword projections pierced into their bodies with unerring accuracy. This wasn't a miss. This was an extremely accurate strike. Not only were the Void Spirit Tribe powerful beings in disbelief, but even Shirley and August were completely dumbstruck. They had no idea what the demonic Frost Star was doing. Demonic Frost Star? Why? A Void Spirit Tribe mighty figure roared with rage. The deafening voice of the star erupted from the sky. Why do you have to ask so many questions? I'm the blade, and you're the meat. Can't I just kill you for fun? All the Void Spirit Tribe powerful beings, surely, what a familiar phrase. This was like a slap to the face. All the Void Spirit Tribe powerful beings fell amid a wave of grief, indignation, and indignation. Soon, only Shirley and August remained on the battlefield. Gulp. Shirley swallowed as she stared up at the gargantuan creature in the sky with a fearful expression. She was unable to figure out what it was thinking. The ball then began to shrink, and a few extremely familiar figures appeared before Shirley, upon which she was astonished once again. And Lin, and there's Su Xiaolan and Lu Qianhuan. Shirley was even more astonished at the sight of these familiar faces. Even Lu Mingxian, Black Spirit Snake Empress, and White Spirit Snake Empress are here. August drew a sharp intake of breath. What kind of terrifying lineup was this? Long time no see. And Lin greeted the two of them with a smile before making his way toward them. It really is you and Lin. Shirley's beautiful eyes wandered over Lin's body, and she was still in disbelief. She couldn't help but pinch Lin's shoulder, upon which she heaved a sigh of relief upon discovering that she wasn't hallucinating. Why are you two here? Also, what's the deal with this demonic frost star? Oh, you're talking about little star? Don't worry, it's my servant. And Lin smiled. Gasp. Shirley and August drew another sharp intake of breath. A Tao integration intermediate stage, void, spirit, tribe, mighty figure as a servant? Bad asterisk SS. Chapter 1778. And Lin's cultivation base is about the same as ours, but he's super powerful now. Lu Qianhuan patted Lin's shoulder with a smile. He's the most bad asterisk SS in the spirit realm. Shirley and August nodded in agreement. Thinking back, Lu Qianhuan, and Lin were all strong contenders for the Tao Exchange Conference of the Four Powers. Who would have thought that the gap between them and Lin would be like an insurmountable chasm? They were still battling return to Void Stage mighty figures, and Lin's servant could insta-kill all of their Void Spirit Tribe enemies with a single sneeze. This gap was devastating. Thank you, Mr. Lin, for your help. August took a moment to recover before extending a grateful salute. Shirley also extended a salute upon seeing this. And Lin hurriedly helped the two of them to their feet with a smile. We're all on the same side, so please don't be so polite. The spirit realm is very dangerous. What are you two doing here? Su Xiaolan also made her way over to them with a smile. Shirley and August looked at each other with concern etched on their faces. Shirley heaved a light sigh. Our master, Holy Angel Michael, was severely wounded during a battle against the heavenly human tribe, and he needs to refine a divine pill, which requires us to enter the spirit realm to find a divine rank ingredient known as the vital dream divine flower. August chimed in. The vital dream divine flower appears quite frequently in the spirit realm, and Master Michael's injuries can't be delayed any longer. So we ventured into the spirit realm. Sigh. Who would have thought that we would almost die here before we could find the flower? And Lin suddenly said, "Wait, let me see if I can find it in my storage ring." He pulled out a pile of shiny storage rings that exuded powerful energy fluctuations. This Shirley was given a fright. So many storage rings. And Lin nodded. This is the chaotic demon balls. This is the sword essence emperors. This is the dark soul emperors. This is the bright soul snakes. This is the god engulfing skeletons. This is embers. This is the demonic maidens. And this is the ancient fiend celestials. After I killed them, I went on to kill other void spirit tribe powerful beings, so I didn't get a chance to look inside. Perhaps the flower you're looking for is in my storage ring. Gasp! Shirley and August's flesh crawled. The sword essence emperor, the god engulfing skeleton, and ember are all Tao integration stage super mighty figures, right? Yes, I did. And Divine Lin's nodded. Yes, I did. And Lin nodded. Shirley was feeling a little dizzy. All of them were extremely renowned mighty figures on the Tai Chu continent. But you've only been in the spirit realm for a few days, and you've already killed them? It could be said that she had witnessed what it meant to slaughter Tao integration stage cultivators like dogs. Just how terrifying was Lin? It was no wonder that the demonic frost star had become his servant. If it hadn't become his servant, perhaps that small star would be among the storage rings it was counting right now. There's strength in numbers. Let's check the spoils of war, Su Xiaolan said. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone echoed in agreement. Lu Qianhuan, Lu Mingxian, Black Spirit Snake, White Spirit Snake, and Su Xiaolan also brought out the spoils of war from their storage rings. They all had at least one Tao integration stage enemy storage ring, so perhaps one of them had encountered the vital dream divine flower. Shirley and August watched as Lin and the others sorted through their spoils of war, their heads buzzing. What the F***CK do you mean strength in numbers? How many enemies did they slay to obtain so many storage rings? Thus, a strange scene appeared. The two Light Wing clan mighty figures stood rooted to the spot and looked on blankly as everyone counted the massive amount of wealth in their storage rings. They didn't know what to do. Tell them to work harder and count the money faster. After a long while. Phew, I'm so tired. I don't have any. What about you guys? Lu Qianhuan wore an exhausted expression. Shirley and August's lips twitched. Counting money to the point of exhaustion? It was really exciting. Look at everyone's spoils of war. Then look at themselves. They wanted to die. I don't have any here either. Lu Mingxian wore a disappointed expression. Black Spirit Snake, White Spirit Snake, Su Xiaolan, and Lin were still counting. After a short while, Black Spirit Snake and White Spirit Snake had also finished counting. An elated expression suddenly appeared on Su Xiaolan's face as she pulled out a dreamy, iridescent flower from her storage ring. The flower exuded extremely powerful energy fluctuations, and living beings with weaker cultivation bases would fall into an eternal dreamland if they approached this flower. Is this the vital dream divine flower? She asked excitedly. Shirley's eyes lit up. That's right. This is it. Who would have thought that we would actually find it in our storage rings? August exclaimed in shock. He felt like his worldview was being completely reshaped. This was a divine rank material that they couldn't find no matter how hard they tried. But Lin had casually pulled out one from his spoils of war. If the flower you're talking about is the one that Su Xiaolan pulled out, then I have three. And Lin pulled out 3 identical flowers from 3 different storage rings. And the divine rank energy fluctuations emanating from them transformed heaven and earth. Shirley and August, everyone, they almost knelt before Lin. Here, take all of them. I'll look for more if you don't have enough. And Lin stuffed the flowers into Shirley's hands. That's enough. That's enough. Shirley was extremely flattered. Su Xiaolan also stuffed a flower into Shirley's hand with an enticing smile on her face. Holy Angel Michael is fighting for the human race, so this is a small token of our appreciation. Please don't hold back. Otherwise, you'll be treating us like strangers. Shirley and August accepted the vital dream divine flowers and expressed their gratitude to everyone again. The spirit realm is too dangerous, so we'll be taking our leave now. August bade farewell, and Lin, Xiaolan, and everyone else remember to come visit the holy paradise when you have time. Shirley placed her finger on her cherry lips, then tossed it to the crowd and blew a kiss as she spoke with a smile. All right, be careful on your way back. And Lin bade farewell with a smile. After bidding farewell to Shirley and August, everyone continued their journey of hunting Void Spirit Tribe powerful beings. And Lin was now the leader of the spirit realm, and he left no one alive in his wake. He was like the cleansing machine of the spirit realm, and all of the Void Spirit Tribe powerful beings trembled in fear at the mere mention of his name. The heaven and earth grieving phenomenon was already enough to strike fear into the hearts of all living beings. Now that a god of slaughter had appeared, it could be said that this was the worst experience in history. Many Void Spirit Tribe living beings had already returned home, not daring to linger in the spirit realm. However, some mighty figures were still unwilling to give up. This was because the core region of the spirit realm had been opened this time, and they still wanted to obtain the Spirit Patriarch's inheritance. Thus, they were desperately searching for the place where the Spirit Patriarch had fallen. It could be said that the Void Spirit Tribe had really narrowed their path with this kind of hope. What awaited them in the future was only despair with no way out. And Lin and the others slaughtered for another 2 days before finally arriving at a vast and majestic ruins. Aside from that, there was also a particularly eye-catching being standing majestically outside the gate. The Battling Buddha, Chapter 1779. On the 12th day of Monkey Sun's battle, there was still no Void Spirit Tribe powerful being that could fight. He had been keeping the Void Spirit Tribe powerful beings at bay for a very long time. Ever since a Tao integration intermediate stage super mighty figure had been crippled by him, no one dared to challenge him anymore. Occasionally, there would be living beings who were confident in their concealment techniques or speed mystic techniques, and they would try to bypass him and enter the ruins behind. All of these confident living beings were naturally annihilated by his staff. Without exception, the monkey leaned against his golden-banded staff and picked at his ears as he looked at the cowering Void Spirit Tribe powerful beings in the distance with a bored expression. How boring. How strange. Void Spirit Tribe powerful beings shouldn't be this weak. Why are they all trash? The Void Spirit Tribe powerful beings in the distance were seething with rage upon hearing this, but they didn't pounce on him. That's right, they were all very calm. All of them who weren't calm and had pounced on him had died. All that was left was to remain calm. The Battling Buddha had displayed his invincible power, but they still didn't want to leave this place. The ruins before them were extremely rare, and if they missed this opportunity, they would never get another one. They were also waiting for the Void Spirit Tribe Tao integration pinnacle stage super mighty figures to arrive so that they could join forces and attack the Battling Buddha. The Battling Buddha was also quite perplexed. Strange, why aren't any Tao integration pinnacle stage super mighty figures here? Where do they all go? Also, the heaven and earth morning just then was quite massive, but it didn't seem like the aura of a Void Spirit Tribe super mighty figure had fallen. Instead, it felt like the aura of a true demon tribe cultivator. How strange. With this in mind, the monkey suddenly plucked a handful of monkey fur from his body, which transformed into countless powerful clones that pounced toward the Void Spirit Tribe powerful beings in the distance. Come on, let's fight. Don't run. Stop right there. A series of return to Void stage Battling Buddha pounced toward the Void Spirit Tribe powerful beings. All of the Void Spirit Tribe powerful beings in the distance were instantly plunged into a state of panic and anguish. His main body guarded the gate while his doppelgangers took care of the small fry. This had become the norm for the Battling Buddha during these past few days. Phew! Boring, I'm so bored. The Battling Buddha leaned against the golden-banded staff with a bored expression, and he began to pick his ears and scratch his fur to pass the time. Ms. Lin, Ms. Su Xiaolan, Ms. Black Spirit Snake, Ms. White Spirit Snake, where are all of you? How come I don't see any of you? Didn't you say you were going to gather together?" The battling Buddha was very depressed. He wanted to leave this place and find his teammates, but the ruins were right here, so he couldn't just abandon them. If he were to leave, the Void Spirit Tribe would take advantage of this opportunity to strike. He couldn't let these maniacs get away with this. Just as the monkey was stuck between a rock and a hard place, a powerful aura suddenly approached from afar. The other party was especially eye-catching because it was an incomparably huge planet. It's the demonic frost star. This is great. The demonic frost star is here. With the help of the demonic frost star and the Soul Lotus Emperor, we can even put up a fight against the battling Buddha. All of the Void Spirit Tribe, powerful beings, discussed spiritedly among themselves with excitement and insanity on their faces. They had clearly seen a glimmer of hope. The battling Buddha was also itching for a fight, and he gripped his staff tightly with an excited smile on his face. "I'm finally going to have an enjoyable battle." The demonic frost star arrived at the place where all of the Void Spirit Tribe powerful beings were gathered, and it couldn't help but feel a sense of sorrow upon hearing the cheers. "Sorry, brother," it began to descend. Boom! Heaven and earth tremored violently, and the earth caved in from its massive body. The demonic frost star successfully landed, and over 20 soul formation stage powerful beings and a return to void stage powerful being were crushed along with it. All of the Void Spirit Tribe powerful beings fled for their lives while cursing loudly. The battling Buddha was dumbstruck upon seeing this. Immediately afterward, one powerful figure after another flew out from the tip of the planet. Enlin, Su Xiaolan, Lu Qianhuan, Lu Mingxian, White Spirit Snake, and Black Spirit Snake had all transformed into top-notch killing machines, and they charged into the Void Spirit Tribe powerful beings like tigers pouncing on a flock of sheep, inflicting blood-curdling cries of despair upon their enemies. They had concealed their auras and used the demonic frost star's Void Spirit Tribe aura to disguise themselves as allies, then sneak up on their enemies before launching a surprise attack. They had perfected this tactic over the past few days. No enemy was able to escape from this tactic. The auras, unleashed by the 6 top-notch powerful beings at the same time, made it difficult for the Void Spirit Tribe powerful beings to even breathe, let alone run away. All of them were quickly slaughtered. The Soul Lotus Emperor was the only Tao integration stage super mighty figure present, and he immediately sacrificed his own divine tool to unleash his most powerful heavenly lotus movement technique. Only then was he able to escape from Enlin and the others. In less than 15 minutes, all of the Void Spirit Tribe powerful beings surrounding the ruins had been slain. Aside from the Soul Lotus Emperor, over 1,000 Void Spirit Tribe powerful beings had perished. Phew! Done. That's a lot of treasures. Enlin held onto a storage ring with a smile on his face. I'm rich now." A vibrant smile appeared on Lu Qianhuan's face as she sipped her soup. Lu Mingxian wore a cold expression. As a proud man, he was very disdainful of people who bullied the weak. Hence, he only targeted return to Void Stage mighty figures. Now that he had obtained 2 return to Void Stage storage rings, he was ecstatic. After picking up the treasures, everyone made their way over to the battling Buddha with elation on their faces. The battling Buddha was still completely dumbstruck, and he had yet to come to his senses. Originally, they were still in a stalemate. Suddenly, a ball fell from the sky, and a few unreasonably strong people jumped out from it. Then, they unreasonably wiped out all the enemy troops. This feeling made him feel like he was in an unrealistic dream. Was this something a human could do? This was way too bad, *SS. "Hi, brother Sun, I've finally found you." And Lin quickly made his way over and gave Sun Wukong a big hug. "So you were here. We've been looking for you for a long time." Everyone blushed upon hearing this. The battling Buddha finally came to his senses, and he murmured to himself, "Brother Enlin, sigh, so you guys have already met up. I'm the only one who hasn't met up with you guys. Not only that, but I've even found my new friends, but I still haven't met up with you guys." The monkey was a little dejected as he spoke. They were having a lot of fun outside, but he was waiting here like an idiot. Ahem, don't worry about the details. Brother Sun, let me introduce you. This beautiful sword immortal is the pavilion lord of our 4-9 immortal sex sword pavilion, Lu Qianhuan. That blue planet is my servant, Little Star. And this man is Lu Mingxian. The veins on Lu Mingxuan's forehead bulged. What a perfunctory introduction. Sun Wukong greeted everyone one by one. He was a very warm and friendly person, so he was very easy to get along with. Say, why have you been waiting here this entire time, Brother Sun? Lin asked. Sun Wukong's expression finally lit up at the mention of this. The ruins behind me are some good stuff, and I'm just waiting to go in with you guys. Chapter 1780. Lin turned toward the ruins behind the battling Buddha. The ruins were enshrouded in a vast expanse of clouds and mist, and it was enshrouded by an extremely powerful restriction. From the outside, one could only see an extremely massive shadow within the clouds and mist, with no end in sight. The only thing that could be seen was the extremely eye-catching gate of light. The restriction had already transcended beyond the Tao integration stage, and it was exactly because of this that the gate of light behind the battling Buddha was the only way to enter the ruins. I'm guessing that this is the place where the spirit patriarch is buried. The battling Buddha spoke with excitement. Everyone's expressions became a little peculiar upon hearing this. What is it? The battling Buddha could tell that everyone's expressions were a little peculiar. I've actually already taken the Spirit Patriarch Palace, and Lin replied. The battling Buddha, then this ruins must be quite powerful. The battling Buddha forced a smile onto his face. All right, let's go in and have a look. And Lin nodded. Everyone entered the gate of light. Little Xing stood guard at the gate and observed what was happening outside. Their field of vision changed. A strange place appeared before everyone's eyes. There was a vibrant sun in the sky, as well as a blue sky and white clouds. There were undulating grasslands on the ground, and the grass was extremely lush and lush. There were also flowers of different colors growing on the grass, and a light breeze blew past as the fragrance of nature wafted toward them. Everyone faltered upon seeing this, and they felt as if they had transmigrated. The style of this place was completely unlike the style of a ruin. And Lin unleashed his God of Creation stage divine sense to survey his surroundings, upon which he discovered that everything around him was real. Even the sky and the sun were real. This is a small world, and Lin said. Everyone came to a sudden realization. So that gate was the gate to another world. Right at this moment, a little white rabbit hopped over from afar. It was able to jump several kilometers with each hop, so it was clearly no ordinary rabbit. Boom! The earth tremored violently. The little white rabbit crashed heavily to the ground before looking down at Lin and the others with its pink eyes. Welcome to the Spirit Tribe, Heavenly Monarch, Bei, Luo's small world. I am your tour guide, Bite You to Death Rabbit. How can I help you? Bite You to Death Rabbit? Lu Qianhuan almost burst into laughter upon hearing this. She repeated the name with a smile on her face. This name sounded quite interesting. Heavenly Monarch Bei Luo of the Spirit Tribe? What's that? The battling Buddha was also perplexed. Was there such a powerful being in the Void Spirit Tribe? And Lin's heart jolted upon hearing this. He recalled the Spirit Tribe monarch that he had seen on the scroll. Could it be that this was Heavenly Monarch Bei Luo? Swish, swish, swish. The little white rabbit inserted its claws into its fluffy belly and instantly pulled out 2 pure white swords. It narrowed its eyes and said, If you don't know anything, why did they come in? We came in to look for something. And Lin said honestly, What are you looking for? Little white rabbit asked warily. Find something valuable. And Lin said, And take it all away. The little white rabbit, everyone, F***CK? Wasn't this a robbery? You're robbing the small world of Heavenly Monarch Bei Luo. The little white rabbit instantly exploded with rage as she stabbed her swords toward Lin. And Lin caught the blade with his bare hands. Pa! Pa! He shattered the little white rabbit's swords with 2 slaps. Ow! The little white rabbit was thrown backwards by the huge force of the recoil. It flipped a few times before it finally stopped falling. "We're here to take something, so don't spout nonsense." And Lin chided, but he didn't kill the rabbit. Instead, he rose into the air atop his brick and flew into the distance. Everyone else also followed along behind him. "Realm Guardians, what are you waiting for? Quickly kill these bandits." Rabbit, who was holding the broken sword, shouted in exasperation. Rumble, the earth suddenly began to tremor. For powerful soul bodies suddenly emerged from the grasslands before pouncing toward Lin. "Ha ha, there's delicious food. Ignorant be asterisk starts. How dare you force your way into Heavenly Monarch Bay Luo's restricted area? I, the tyrant dragon monarch, will tear you to shreds. A bunch of idiots. Die. Weaklings should slumber underground." The soul bodies with twisted, sinister appearances pounced toward Lin and the others in a frenzy. And Lin's eyes suddenly turned golden, and an indescribable might suddenly proliferated throughout heaven and earth. Great divine might technique. The golden ripples enveloped the four spirits, causing them to freeze in place. Then, as if they had seen an existence that they couldn't afford to provoke, their expressions became extremely horrified and sluggish. In the end, all of them fell to the ground and began to tremble. Spare us, heavenly God. I was wrong. I really was wrong." All of the soul bodies wept bitter tears as they begged for their lives. The little white rabbit was dumbstruck upon seeing this, and she yelled, "You're the guardian deities of this small world. Don't let me down." None of the soul bodies listened to the little white rabbit, and they continued to beg for their lives. Even after Lin and the others had flown away from this world, they still hadn't come to their senses and were still lying on the ground. The little white rabbit's eyes were bloodshot with rage. "Useless trash. All of you are useless trash." And Lin also felt like they were quite useless. At least they set up a restriction that transcends beyond the Tao integration stage. Why are the guardian deities so weak? The battling Buddha's expression was a little awkward. Perhaps this world prefers peace and harmony? Perhaps that's why they set up some docile and adorable little animals as their guardian deities? Those are the soul bodies that threaten to eat humans, and you call them docile and adorable little animals? And Lin was astonished. Sun Wukong scratched his head. "They're quite cute when they beg for their lives." And Lin, this small world wasn't very large. It was only about 1/5 the size of the Huan Nation. And Lin and the others quickly flew around in a circle in the sky. Half of the world was covered in grasslands, while the other half was covered in forests. There were also some rivers, lakes, and hills. There weren't many types of animals. Most of them were rabbits, goats, squirrels, kangaroos, and so on. The most ferocious animal was a type of unicorn, and its power level was around that of a second-stage Tao body. So, what are we doing here? And Lin's expression darkened after flying around this small world. Su Xiaolan closed her eyes and took a deep breath of the fresh air with a contented expression. "Let's just treat this as a vacation. Sister Xiaolan sure has a good attitude." Lu Qianwan grinned. Black Spirit Snake raised the massive sword in her hand. "How about we slice this world in half and see if there's anything good inside?" "No. If we do that, we could suffer backlash from the small world, and the power of the God of Creation stage could directly attack us." White Spirit Snake immediately tried to dissuade them, and Lin had already given up on searching for treasures. He treated this as a vacation with Su Xiaolan. They ran around on the grasslands, basking in the sun and blue sky. They caught a few super adorable little rabbits before cooking spicy rabbit cubes in a frying pan. Chapter 1781. On a stretch of lush grassland. Clatter, clatter, clatter. And Lin held a spatula in one hand and a frying pan in the other as he stir-fried the rabbit meat. Su Xiaolan sat off to the side with a faint smile on her face as she looked at the man who was completely focused on stir-frying. Add dried chili, ginger, immortal oil. The rabbits here were extremely adorable and plump, so the aroma produced by the stir-frying was especially rich. Coupled with Lin's heavenly court chef god level cooking skills, This spicy rabbit pudding was extremely tempting to him. White Spirit Snake, the battling Buddha, and the others also gathered around to look at the dish in the frying pan with anticipation in their eyes. Senior and Lin is so awesome. He's so good at everything, even stir-frying. White Spirit Snake smacked her lips as she stared at the rabbit dish in the frying pan with a scorching gaze. The battling Buddha was also very intrigued. Even though I don't need to eat anymore, I still feel like eating this dish is a form of enjoyment. Mr. and Lin, how about you give me a portion as well? I can eat meat after becoming a Buddha? And Lin was a little surprised. Even monsters can be eaten, so why can't I eat rabbits? The battling Buddha replied nonchalantly. And Lin had no response to that. Blue sky, white clouds, grassland barbecue. What a wonderful combination. Everyone was feeling extremely relaxed and carefree. A delicious aroma wafted through the air over the grassland. A little white rabbit about 6 meters tall appeared in the distance before bouncing over to Lin's side and squatting on the grass as it stared at the spicy rabbit dish in the frying pan with its round, pink eyes. No one paid any heed. This bite-you-to-death rabbit only had a combat prowess of 5. Even if there were 10,000 of it, it wouldn't pose a threat to them. The bite-you-to-death rabbit took a whiff, and its entire body trembled as the aroma wafted into its nostrils. And Lin couldn't bear to see this. I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself when I saw these adorable rabbits. You don't have any siblings among them, right? The bite-you-to-death rabbit shook its head. I don't have any siblings. And Lin breathed a sigh of relief. This way, even if he fried the same species as the rabbit, it probably wouldn't collapse too much. And Lin continued to stir-fry. His dish was about to be completed. The rabbit pondered for a moment and suddenly said, "It smells so good. Can you share some with me?" Swish! And Lin almost threw the spatula. What? And Lin was shocked. Everyone stared at the rabbit in shock. I said, "The rabbit meat you fried is very delicious. Can I have some?" Bite-you-to-death rabbit repeated. You're also a rabbit. You actually want to eat your own kind? And Lin had originally thought that the rabbit was here to criticize him for stir-frying rabbits. He didn't expect that the rabbit would actually want a share of the spicy rabbit meat. This is not my kind. Bite you to death if you don't submit, rabbit shook its head. I'm called Bite you to death if you don't submit, rabbit. They're called little white rabbits. Our names are different, so how can we be the same species? Besides, I'm so big and they're so small. It's obvious that we're not the same species. And Lin's mouth gaped open. Su Xiaolan and the others were all astonished. What a logical genius. But aren't rabbits herbivores? Lu Qianhuan was still perplexed. That's because the little rabbit is herbivorous. I'm the bite-you-to-death rabbit. If I don't eat meat, how am I supposed to kill the animals that don't like me? The rabbit replied with a serious expression. Everyone was convinced, but there aren't many spicy rabbit meat here, and I have to share it with my friends. Why do you want me to give you spicy rabbit meat? And Lin asked with a hint of a smile on his face. The rabbit faltered upon hearing this. This was indeed a very important question. Unless you tell me where the treasures are hidden in this small world. And Lin smiled before adding, we won't take your treasures. We'll just take a look, Su Xiaolan. However, the rabbit shook its head. There are no treasures in this small world, as there isn't enough spiritual energy in this world. There aren't even any spirit-rank treasures here. Everyone was dumbstruck upon hearing this. Why did Heavenly Monarch, Bei, Luo set up such a high-level restriction in this world? Everyone thought that this was an extremely high-level set of ruins. And Lin used his divine sense to detect the rabbit's true emotions, so he knew that it wasn't lying. There really weren't any treasures in this small world. Then, what do you have to exchange for this delicious rabbit meat? And Lin didn't give up. He looked up at the rabbit with his holy flame. The rabbit paused for a moment before replying. This small world was used by Heavenly Monarch Bei Luo to imprison a powerful enemy of the spirit tribe. I could take you to see her. She's very beautiful with fair skin, long legs, large breasts, and a pretty face. You should like her. Can I exchange her for rabbit meat? Gasp. And Lin's flesh crawled upon hearing this. This was a King death sentence. And Lin quickly came to his senses before turning to the celestial maiden in a jade dress. Xiaolan, what do you think? A faint smile appeared on Su Xiaolan's face. Don't be so nervous. I trust you. It's rare for us to find some clues, so let's go and have a look. Black Spirit Snake's brows furrowed slightly. The place where Heavenly Monarch Bei Luo imprisons his enemy is most likely the most important place in this world. You're willing to sell Heavenly Monarch Bei Luo for a spicy rabbit meat? I told you when you appeared just then that I'm only a tour guide in this world. I don't have the ability to sell out Heavenly Monarch Bei Luo. The rabbit chuckled coldly. I wanted to beat you up because you're talking about robbing me in such a righteous manner. However, I've thought things through now. There's nothing good in this world anyway, so you can do whatever you want with it. And Lin didn't give in. Instead, he spoke with a serious expression. You're taking us to the place where Heavenly Monarch Bei Luo's enemy is imprisoned? You've sold out Heavenly Monarch Bei Luo. All right, I'll admit it. I've been guarding this small world for tens of thousands of years, so what's wrong with selling out Heavenly Monarch Bei Luo just once? The rabbit spoke with a resentful expression. He said that he would come back to see me once every 1,000 years at most, but it's already been the 36,000 years, and he still hasn't come back. He's betrayed me so many times, so why can't I betray him just once? The battling Buddha was dumbstruck. What the hell are you talking about? In any case, the deal was happily concluded. Bite you to death, rabbit, and the others enjoyed the spicy rabbit meat together with Lin and the others. The rabbit was in tears as it ate the delicious food, and it bluntly stated that everything it had eaten in the past was sh*t, and it was Lin who had given it a new meaning to live. After everyone enjoyed the spicy rabbit meat, the rabbit skipped ahead of Lin and the others to find the enemy imprisoned by Heavenly Monarch Bei Luo. Everyone passed through the forest. The little rabbit bounced about, causing the ground to tremble. Finally, it jumped into the void ahead, stirring up a wave of ripples before disappearing without a trace. And Lin's expression shifted. So, there's an enchantment spell formation here. It looks like it's a very high-level enchantment spell formation. I didn't even notice it with my consciousness. Even though he had only taken a cursory glance at it at the time, that was enough to show just how extraordinary this enchantment spell formation was. And Lin began to walk into the spell formation, and a burst of ripples surged forth, as if he had sunk into the water. The scenery around him then began to change, and he arrived at a beautiful valley. There was a waterfall hanging in the distance. There was a lake that was as clear as a mirror. There was also an extremely intricate-looking little house that had been constructed beside a mountain. The rabbit pointed at the house with a paw. That beautiful woman is in there. And Lin followed along with a peculiar expression. Chapter 1782. And Lin surreptitiously unleashed his divine sense to survey his surroundings. His targeted divine sense finally discovered that this place was different. There was an extremely fearsome formation here. Not only was this formation set up based on the terrain, but it was also an earth-shattering formation that had been set up based on the entire heaven and earth. This beautiful place was the core of this world, as well as the core of the formation. All of its power was being used to repress a certain power within the formation, and that power was located in the little house beside the rabbit. Most importantly, Lin's divine sense swept over the little house and discovered the energy that had been repressed. However, he didn't discover any life forms, which was very strange. And Lin and Su Xiaolan were a little cautious, but they were also a little curious as they made their way toward the little house. Are you sure that one of Heavenly Monarch Bei Luo's enemies is in this little house? And Lin asked. He was quite interested in this so-called spirit tribe. If he was not mistaken, Heavenly Monarch Bei Luo's tribe was not in the Taichu continent. Instead, it was in a world outside of the Taichu continent. That's right, she's in this room. The rabbit nodded before shrinking down to the height of an adult human. It opened the door and skipped into the room. Everyone followed along with curiosity. The interior of the room was decorated in a quaint yet elegant manner. There were wind chimes ringing outside the window, and there was an unfinished landscape painting on the table. And Lin looked around at the empty room with a perplexed expression. Where is she? Don't worry, she's here. The little white rabbit hopped over to the dressing table, picked up a white energy bead, and swallowed it in one gulp. Lin faltered momentarily. He suddenly discovered that this energy bead seemed to be the source of the repressed energy. A white light then erupted from the little white rabbit. The blinding white light caused everyone's vision to falter for a split second. Regardless of whether it was Lu Qianhuan or Black Spirit Snake or the battling Buddha, both of them were given a fright by this blinding light, and they all pulled out their weapons. However, Lin instantly switched over to his consciousness form and was greeted by an astonishing sight. The little white rabbit shone brightly, and its body began to elongate, revealing its exquisite and perfect body. Her white and tender skin seemed to be able to squeeze water out of it. Her slender and well-proportioned thighs were tightly pressed against the ground, and her delicate toes were lightly tapping on the ground. Her plump and perky breasts were as moist as cherries, extremely alluring. And Lin was stunned. But soon, a white dress covered her body. When the light dissipated, everyone finally regained their vision, and they were dumbfounded. An extremely beautiful woman appeared in front of them. Her white dress accentuated her slender waist, impressive breasts, curvy buttocks, and long legs. Her jet black hair cascaded down to her waist, and there was a red mole at the side of her peach-colored eyes. Her thin and moist lips were slightly raised, and her smile was pure and charming. "Hello, I'm Heavenly Monarch Bei Luo's rival. You can call me Rabbit Maiden if you don't like me." And Lin, everyone, I feel like my intelligence has been severely insulted. Su Xiaolan spoke expressionlessly. So when this rabbit said it could take us to see Heavenly Monarch Bei Luo's rival, it was actually going to take us to see itself? Lu Qianhuan drew a sharp intake of breath. My golden eyes, fiery eyes, can't even tell that it's a rabbit monster. Sun Wukong gritted his teeth, and he suddenly wanted to bash this rabbit monster to death with his golden-banded staff. Black Spirit Snake had already drawn her massive sword. "How about we eat some spicy rabbit meat again?" The woman instantly stumbled back a few steps in fear. "I'm not lying to you. I really am Heavenly Monarch Bei Luo's rival. Heavenly Monarch Bei Luo's rival probably can't even defeat my feed cow." White Spirit Snake was in disbelief. Right at this moment, and Lin stepped forward with a resigned expression. "Ahem, Air, I'll hack you to death if you don't believe me. The Rabbit Maiden might be telling the truth." And Lin's words were undoubtedly very convincing, and everyone's desire to eat another spicy rabbit pudding immediately faded as they turned to look at Lin with confusion in their eyes. Lin continued, "There's a heaven and earth formation here that can restrict her power, which is why she's so weak." The woman in the white dress looked at Lin gratefully and nodded as she explained, "This world has restricted my power. In this place, I can only entrust my power to the bead and become a semi-free rabbit to play in other places." "That's a good move," Lu Qianhuan exclaimed. Su Xiaolan's brows furrowed slightly. "So you're Heavenly Monarch Bei Luo's enemy anyway, so you're not pressured to betray him? And you even freeloaded our spicy rabbit meat for free?" The Rabbit Maiden blushed as she intertwined her fingers within Lin's as she glanced at Lin. "You can't say that. I'm sure you don't mind having my mouth on you, right?" She winked at Lin as she spoke. She knew that Lin was the leader of this group, so all she had to do was curry favor with Lin. And Lin flared up with rage. "Xiaolan said you freeloaded our food, so that's what you're doing. Hurry up and apologize." The Rabbit Maiden was forced into a corner by Lin and the others, and she apologized to everyone for the spicy rabbit meat. "So why did you trick us into coming here?" And Lin asked with a content expression as he looked at the Rabbit Maiden, who was bowing her head in apology. The Rabbit Maiden bit down on her lower lip. "I've been trapped here for tens of thousands of years, and I've had enough. I want you to get me out of here." The Rabbit Maiden poked her pink cheeks with a smile. "As long as you get me out of here, I can satisfy any request of yours, no matter how unreasonable it is," he gasped. Everyone drew a sharp intake of breath. The Rabbit Maiden felt as if the air had suddenly cooled. Her instincts told her that if she continued to seduce Lin like this, she would also become cold. She immediately corrected herself. Of course, I'm only a performer, not a prostitute. The rabbit maiden looked at everyone with a pitiable expression. If you don't believe me, I can also swear a heavenly Tao oath. Also, I may be useless now, but that's only because my power has been restricted. I am Heavenly Monarch Shi Ling of the Spirit Tribe, and in terms of combat prowess, I'm probably comparable to the weakest god of creation on your side. And Lin and the others were finally tempted upon hearing this. The assistance of a god of creation was quite tempting to them. Can I ask you to fight for me and the human race? And Lin asked. Su Xiaolan and the others also turned toward the rabbit maiden. They were also looking forward to hearing Lin's words. Of course I can. If you get me out of here, I'll fight for you for 100 years. The rabbit maiden raised a finger. No matter who my enemy is, I'll be able to King kill them. I'll hack you to death if you don't submit. The rabbit maiden wasn't named for nothing. Besides, for the sake of freedom, fighting for 100 years was a far better deal than eating grass for tens of thousands of years in this godforsaken place. What a steal. All right, I agree. And Lin nodded. You have to swear a heavenly Tao oath first. The rabbit maiden was ecstatic to hear this, and her pink eyes lit up as she nodded. Deal. Chapter 1783. The rabbit maiden swore a heavenly Tao oath in front of everyone, swearing that if Enlin could help her escape, she would fight for the human race and swear loyalty to Enlin for 100 years. Enlin unleashed his consciousness to its fullest extent, and he could sense an inexorable connection passing through this world and fusing into a higher heaven and earth. If one dared to disobey the oath, their Tao heart would be severely wounded, and their Tao foundation might even be destroyed, thereby causing them to lose all of their cultivation bases. As such, they wouldn't dare to disobey the heavenly Tao oath. All right, that's the end of my oath. Can you help me escape now? The rabbit maiden looked up at Enlin with anticipation in her large, pink eyes. All right, what should I do? Enlin nodded with a smile on his face. The rabbit maiden. Slice this world in half. Turn this world upside down. Enlin, wasn't that Black Spirit Snake's King suggestion? Black Spirit Snake had almost inexplicably helped the rabbit maiden out. Thank God White Spirit Snake stopped her in time. You'll be able to escape if you turn this world upside down? Lu Qianhuan was a little surprised. That's right. The formation sealing me in this world is inextricably linked to this small world. If you destroy this world, a flaw will appear in the formation, and I'll be able to break out. The rabbit maiden spoke with an excited expression. What about the backlash from destroying this world? And Lin asked. The rabbit maiden heaved a forlorn sigh. Heavenly Monarch Beiluo is afraid that I'll escape from this small world, so he's placed all the priority on me. As such, the backlash from destroying this world will also be focused on me, so you don't have to worry about that. If you suffer even the slightest bit of backlash, you can immediately stop destroying this world and give up on rescuing me, the rabbit maiden said. And Lin looked at everyone. What do you guys think? Sure, let's give it a try. The battling Buddha was eager to try. Su Xiaolan, Black Spirit Snake, and the others had no objections either. Lu Mingxian took a deep breath. He felt like his time with Enlin had been far too exciting. He had battled Tao Integration Stage, super mighty figures, battled the half-step god of creation stage, ancient fiend celestial, hunted void spirit tribe powerful beings. And now, he was trying to destroy the world. Everyone walked out of this small world and scattered all over the world. Black Spirit Snake, White Spirit Snake, Su Xiaolan, Lu Qianhuan, Lu Mingxian, the battling Buddha, and Enlin stood in different parts of the world, looking down at the earth beneath their feet. Lu Qianhuan and Lu Mingxian summoned a rain of terrifying swords, which tore through the earth and pulverized the void. As the void crumbled, even the heavens began to tremor violently. Black Spirit Snake drew her massive sword and slashed it toward the ground. The golden sword light fell from the sky, stretching for hundreds of miles, and it was unknown how deep it was. As if it was cutting tofu, it tore the entire earth in half. White Spirit Snake swept her yin and yang swords through the air like a full moon, and yin and yang instantly reversed as heaven and earth twisted and turned upside down. It was as if everything had been inverted before being destroyed. The battling Buddha extended his golden-banded staff to a length of over 1,000,000 feet, and he stirred heaven and earth with all his might. A gentle sweep of his staff could flatten over 1,000 hills, and a ferocious jab into the ground would create a bottomless pit, triggering an apocalyptic earthquake. Su Xiaolan's sword fell like a vermilion bird, incinerating heaven and earth. Enlin was also using fire with her. Enlin had unleashed all 7 of his holy flames, using heaven and earth as his furnace to incinerate everything within heaven and earth. The flames were so terrifying that they were about to blow up the furnace that was heaven and earth. The destructive energy quickly swept through every corner of the world. The earth was cracking and crumbling, and the heavens were weeping blood. Extremely terrifying power of this world surged toward a certain place in a frenzy. The rabbit maiden stood at the center of the storm, and her white dress billowed in the wind, revealing a pair of snowy white legs. Upon closer inspection, one would be able to see a series of crimson lines appearing on her legs, and they were becoming more and more obvious. She silently put on a pink rabbit mask, from which blood seeped from the edges of the mask and flowed down her chin, down her slender neck, and even stained her curvaceous body. Hee hee! Ha ha! Finally! I finally succeeded! The rabbit maiden spread open her arms, and countless crimson lines quickly spread outward with her at the center. They were like a spider's web, and they soon covered the entire valley before striking an invisible barrier. It was as if they had encountered some kind of bottleneck, and they were unable to advance any further. Core suppression formation, break for me. The rabbit maiden let loose a clear cry as energy erupted from her body. An extremely sharp light burst forth from the crimson line, threatening to pierce through all things and break through all things. Nothing could stand in its way. Kacha-bam! The transparent barrier was shattered. Enormous power surged into the rabbit maiden's body like a vortex in the air above the small world. Enlin was just incinerating space when he suddenly heard a gentle female voice. "All right, I've succeeded." Enlin immediately withdrew his divine technique upon hearing this before flying toward the rabbit maiden. Su Xiaolan, Black Spirit Snake, and the others also stopped destroying the world and flew toward the forest. Soon, they were greeted by the sight of a smiling woman who had removed her mask. You don't look like you've changed much." Su Xiaolan's eyes shimmered. "I'm clearly a lot cuter." The rabbit maiden pursed her lips into a smile. "Can't you see my ears?" The woman's pristine white, furry ears trembled slightly. "Oh!" Everyone let loose cries of surprise. The rabbit maiden turned around and wiggled her little pink fur ball. "Look, I have a beautiful tail." "Oh!" Everyone let loose cries of surprise again. The battling Buddha gripped his staff tightly with excitement in his eyes. However, Enlin could tell from his powerful consciousness that not only had the rabbit maiden changed her appearance, there was a power within the rabbit maiden's body that struck fear into even his heart. The rabbit maiden clasped her hands together and bowed deeply to everyone. "Thank you for your help, everyone. I'll never forget what you've done for me." Enlin's lips twitched. "I think it's better for you to call me Heavenly Monarch Shiling otherwise. I'll always feel like you're from the Black Serpent Society." "All right, I'll be whatever you say, Big Brother Enlin." The rabbit maiden turned to Enlin with a sweet smile. "Oh, then I'll call you Little Rabbit from now on." "Little Rabbit sounds good." Enlin's eyes lit up with excitement. Everyone, the rabbit maiden drew a sharp intake of breath. Didn't you say it would be easier to call me Heavenly Monarch Shiling?" "Little Rabbit is easier to call," Enlin replied. "You just said you'd be whatever I say." The rabbit maiden's flesh crawled upon hearing this. "Can't you tell that he's trying to be a compliment?" The woman forced a smile onto her face and nodded in a gentle voice. "Little Rabbit sounds pretty good too." Then I'll call you Little Rabbit from now on." Lu Qianhuan sighed with emotion. From a rabbit that would bite you to death to a rabbit, it's such a heart-wrenching transformation. It's not a heart-wrenching transformation. And Lin interjected. The rabbit maiden was gritting her teeth with a wide smile. Chapter 1784. The rabbit maiden forced herself to calm down before a gentle smile appeared on her face. Big brother and Lin, this world has become unstable. Let's get out of here as soon as possible. All right. And Lin nodded. Sun Wukong was a little disappointed. Are there really no other treasures in this world? He had guarded these ruins for over a dozen days, but there was nothing left? Sun Wukong was so shocked by the reality that he started to doubt his monkey life. Isn't the greatest treasure me? The rabbit maiden skipped over to Sun Wukong as an extremely sweet smile appeared on her face. Are you still not satisfied with a treasure like me? If any other living being were in her shoes, they would probably have been completely bewitched by her adorable appearance. Sun Wukong gripped the golden-banded staff tightly before heaving a forlorn sigh. The treasure isn't mine. It's in Lin's, and Lin replied with a serious expression. No, little rabbit is the treasure of the entire human race and even the entire Tai Chu continent. It doesn't belong to me. A warm smile appeared on Su Xiaolan's face. Well said. Little rabbit scratched her ears with a perplexed expression. How did this suddenly escalate to the level of the entire Tai Chu continent? How strange. She was only in Lin's lackey, even though she was fighting for the human race. What enemies did the human race have? What enemies did Lin have? Even if Lin was a Tao integration stage super mighty figure, she was a god of creation, so it would be a piece of cake for her to take care of Lin's enemies. With this in mind, the rabbit maiden felt a lot more at ease, and a genuine smile appeared on her face. I'm finally free. My life from now on is going to be very beautiful. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. One figure after another flew out of the gate of light. You're finally back. The demonic frost star twirled around in circles with elation. Look, these are the enemies I kept at bay for you after you went in. There were several dozen Void Spirit Tribe powerful beings outside the ruins that had been frozen into ice sculptures. And Lin smiled. Well done, little star. It's all thanks to Master's instructions. The demonic frost star chuckled. It had already adapted to its current role perfectly. It turned toward everyone and let loose a cry of surprise. Huh? Who is she? Oh, let me introduce you. She's my fighter, Little Bunny. This is my servant, Little Star, and Lin introduced. Hello, I'm Little Star. Hello, I'm Little Rabbit. The demonic frost star and heavenly monarch, Shi Ling, looked at each other with tears in their eyes. It was a very touching scene. In fact, and Lin could even see an expression of sympathy and sympathy on their faces. Wait, is there something wrong? Little Star, what was your previous name? It is called the demonic frost star. Good name. Little Bunny, what was your previous name? Heavenly King Shi Ling, domineering. Good name. For some reason, the demonic frost star and the rabbit maiden soon became quite animated, and Lin was very pleased to see this. They were able to converse without any awkwardness because of their names, which proved that the names he had come up with were quite useful. During the next few days, and Lin and the others continued to hunt down Void Spirit Tribe powerful beings. Due to the addition of the battling Buddha and the rabbit maiden, their lineup had become even more fearsome. In particular, the rabbit maiden was trying to show off her abilities. In order to showcase her abilities, she even killed a soul formation stage enemy from over 1,500 kilometers away with a single spit, thereby allowing Lin to witness just how terrifying the power of the weakest god of creation stage cultivators could be. After 5 days of continuous hunting, they had slain 3 return to void stage mighty figures, several dozen soul formation stage powerful beings, and countless void spirit tribe powerful beings below the soul formation stage. However, they didn't encounter even a single Tao integration stage super mighty figure. Perhaps they had received some information in advance, so they had all fled. And Lin didn't mind. He had already reaped a bountiful harvest during this trip to the spirit realm. In contrast, the Void Spirit Tribe had lost close to half of their top-notch combat power, so they probably wouldn't dare to do anything in the near future. The exit to the spirit realm of the Divine Lake Realm was a purple vortex. The rabbit maiden took a disappointed glance at the spirit realm behind her before following behind Lin and the others and quickly disappearing into the vortex. Above the frozen lake, a few powerful figures descended upon the lake. All of the spirit beasts stationed here let loose cries of elation. Look, Empress White Spirit Snake and Black Spirit Snake are back. The battling Buddha and Lin and the Divine Phoenix Maiden have also returned safely. My God, even Lu Qianhuan and sect leader Lu Mingxian are back. All of the spirit beasts let loose cries of surprise, but most of them were joyful congratulations. Wow, is this the Tai Chu continent? The beautiful woman with rabbit ears and rabbit tail opened her bright pink eyes and looked around curiously. She took a deep breath and sighed, as expected of the main continent. The spiritual aura is so abundant. And Lin only came to his senses now. She wasn't a living being from his continent. He wanted to meet Heavenly Monarch Bei Luo because he wanted to learn more about the world outside of the Tai Chu continent. Now he had a chance to ask her. Black Spirit Snake and White Spirit Snake bade farewell to Enlin and the others. They had to report the results of their mission to Niuhua. The battling Buddha also bade farewell to everyone before departing on a cloud. Lu Mingxian made his way over to Enlin with an awkward and apologetic expression on his face. Sect leader Enlin, it's about time for me to go back. Thank you again for your help. As for what happened in the past, all right, that's enough. Enlin interjected with a smile. We're comrades now, and we have a common enemy. There's no need to stand on ceremony when it comes to helping each other. Lu Mingxian faltered slightly before a rare smile appeared on his face, and he nodded. All right, I'll be taking my leave now. He extended a salute toward Enlin before turning to the beautiful woman beside him with a gentle expression. Huan, I take back what I said. It's great that you're able to stay at the 4-9 Immortal Sect. A vibrant smile appeared on Lu Qianhuan's face. Of course, this was the best decision I made all those years ago. Lu Mingxian couldn't help but smile when he saw his daughter's reaction. Ever since Qiu Hong's death, father and daughter had never smiled together in the past 100 years. At this moment, the two of them looked at each other and smiled under the sunlight. It was as if the snow had melted in the spring, and it was as beautiful as a painting. Enlin, Su Xiaolan, and the others all sensibly chose not to disturb this father-daughter moment. They caught a few ice flower skates from the lake before cooking some fish soup in a frying pan. The ice flower skate was a specialty of the Spirit Lake realm. Its meat was tender and succulent, and it was extremely delicious. The rabbit maiden stared at the fish in the frying pan, and she rubbed her little hands together as she drooled. If the Heavenly Tao oath was the objective reason why she stayed by Enlin's side, then Enlin's lethal cooking was the subjective reason why she stayed by Enlin's side. The fish soup wasn't ready yet. Lu Qianhuan was already making her way over from afar. She could tell that Lu Mingxian had already left. Lu Qianhuan looked at Enlin and Su Xiaolan, who were happily cooking soup together, and her expression was a little dazed. At this moment, Enlin had already noticed her, and he waved at her with all his might. Come over here. I saved a portion for you. This fish smells so good. A vibrant smile appeared on Lu Qianhuan's face as she looked at the man with clear eyes. All right, I'm coming. I can't miss out on a chance to freeload from the chef god. Chapter 1785. Enlin, Su Xiaolan, Lu Qianhuan, and the rabbit maiden enjoyed the delicious ice flower skates before tearing open a spatial rift and returning to the 4-9 Immortal Sect. The rabbit maiden enshrouded everyone with a special soul power, allowing them to travel through space at a speed comparable to that of a god of creation, which was several times faster than Enlin and the others. Soon, an extremely majestic and imposing sect appeared in front of them on the grassland. There were tens of thousands of palaces, and iridescent light illuminated the entire sky. Atop a divine mountain, 9 divine halos of different colors extended into the heavens. This was the 4-9 Immortal Sect's 9 Heavens trial venue. Bai Ling organized the sect disciples to stand outside the gate to welcome their sect leader's triumphant return. Welcome back, sect leader Enlin. Sect leader's Tao intent is unparalleled, and his divine might is eternal. All of the sect disciples looked up at the man descending from the sky with scorching reverence in their eyes, and their words of praise rocked heaven and earth. "Oh, big brother and Lin, are you really that impressive?" The rabbit maiden blinked her large eyes with amazement on her face. He really did look like a big brother of the underworld. And Lin was speechless as he looked at the smiling woman in the white dress, who was looking at him with her disciples. He had already told her many times not to welcome him like this, but Bai Ling would always get all of the core disciples to welcome him. Perhaps Bai Ling wasn't trying to welcome him. Instead, she was simply enjoying the process of teaching her disciples to welcome him. "My lord sect leader, you brought another person back? Aren't you going to introduce her to us?" Bai Ling placed her hands behind her back and leaned forward with a beautiful smile on her face as she feigned a pure and innocent look. "Let me introduce her to you. Her name is Little Rabbit, and she's my guard." And Lin spoke to the beautiful and seductive woman beside him, who had her rabbit ears pricked up. "Oh, Little Rabbit, what an adorable name." She has an adorable name, and she's also very adorable. To be able to become the sect leader's guard, she must be very powerful. Don't be fooled by her adorable appearance. Perhaps she could transform into a terrifying, demonic sawtooth rabbit and tear apart doubt integration stage mythological beasts. The disciples were in a heated discussion. The rabbit maiden immediately understood something when she saw that none of the disciples were amused by her name. There were probably many other people with similar names in the sect. "This is my new servant, Little Star." It was once the demonic frost star of the void spirit realm, and Lin said to the small star that was rotating gently beside him. The demonic frost star was currently the size of a basketball, and Lin didn't like how big it was, so he forcibly transformed it into this form. As soon as he said that, all the disciples exclaimed in surprise again. The demonic frost star was a vastly renowned being on the Tai Chu continent, and it had once been a powerful enemy of the Kingdom of the Nine States United Army. Who would have thought that their sect leader would be able to turn such a terrifying enemy into a servant after just one trip to the spirit realm? How terrifying! The disciples looked at Enlin with even more fervent and reverence. Enlin took the rabbit maiden and Little Star on another tour of the 4-9 Immortal sect, where they also met the higher-ups of the 4-9 Immortal sect, as well as all of his beast pets and servants. Within a conference room that was decorated in an ancient style, the rabbit maiden sat obediently off to the side, and her pink eyes blinked as she surveyed everyone with curiosity. She discovered that everyone was very strange. There were all types of beings here, and all of them were very memorable. There was an extremely ugly monkey, a beautiful white fox, a handsome young master, a cold and aloof snow maiden, a sword cultivator with dark circles around his eyes, a super adorable little ball, a little flower, a little butterfly. All of these beings and all of these races were like a fantastical and bizarre group. Our sect now has a god of creation stage, Cultivator, and that's my guard, Little Rabbit, and Lin said in an indifferent voice. Xinyuan Chung, Su Qinyun, Tang Shimin, and all the higher-ups were all astonished to hear this. They then turned to look at the woman sitting off to the side with astonishment etched on their faces. She's the weakest god of creation stage, Cultivator. The rabbit maiden made a peace sign and stuck out her little pink tongue with a smile on her face, but there was still a hint of pride on her face. She's still a god of creation stage, Cultivator. She's a bad asterisk SS who can crush all beings below the god of creation stage. Tang Shimin's face was flushed with excitement. The others were also amazed. At the same time, they also felt proud. They were all people who had integrated into the sect. It could be said that the top combat power of the sect could be promoted to a higher level. It could be said to be very happy and excited for them. Su Qinyun blinked her dreamy blue eyes. Who would have thought that such an adorable big sister rabbit would be so powerful as well? Keep Little Rabbit's combat prowess a secret for now. She can be one of the trump cards of our sect, and she can deal a critical blow to our enemies when the time comes, and Lin said in a solemn voice. Everyone nodded. The rabbit maiden placed her hands on her soft legs and listened to everyone's praises and exclamations. Her ears twitched lightly with a smug and proud expression. She was already one of the most powerful beings in the sect, so she wouldn't even need to participate in normal battles. Perhaps she wouldn't even need to do anything to protect Enlin for 100 years. Everyone was still discussing spiritedly among themselves, and the conference was quite lively. This was also the style of sect conferences. Haha, I'm really looking forward to seeing the heavenly human tribe suffer a crushing defeat at our hands. It's going to be so exhilarating. Tobias's eyes were burning with battle intent. I wonder who's more powerful between a god of creation and a heavenly god. Shangguan mused. There's no doubt that little rabbit is more powerful. Flapping his little wings, little Tion declared proudly, Master's guards are naturally invincible and invincible. Apparently, little rabbit is a powerful being from another realm. I wonder if a god of creation stage powerful being from another realm would suffer backlash from the heavenly Tao if they were to attack the heavenly human tribe. Bai Ling was still a little concerned. The rabbit maiden was quite confused as she listened to everyone's discussion. Wait, what's this heavenly human tribe? And what's a heavenly god? The rabbit maiden had been trapped in heavenly monarch Bei Luo's small world for a very long time, and she was feeling like she couldn't keep up with the times. You don't know? Xin Yuan Cheng was a little surprised. So you don't even know who Enlin's enemies are, and you're willing to become his guard? Bai Ling looked at the rabbit-eared woman with a sympathetic expression. Her heart ached for this powerful woman. Why was she so gullible? So what are these enemies you're talking about? The rabbit maiden's ears perked up, and her pink eyes widened. Su Xiaolan explained patiently, the heavenly human tribe is a tribe nurtured by the heavenly Tao, and they want to destroy all humans. The heavenly gods are the embodiment of the paramount power of laws of the heavenly Tao. All of them want to destroy the human race, and Enlin is their target. Boom! The hair on the rabbit maiden's body stood on end. Her pupils dilated momentarily before coming back to focus, and she stared blankly at Enlin. So, your enemies are actually the heavens? We're going to fight the heavens. Enlin nodded in an honest manner. Holy F***CK. The rabbit maiden's body swayed slightly, and she took a deep breath before clasping a hand to her chest. What the F***CK have I done? Chapter 1786. Why didn't you say so earlier? The rabbit maiden was on the brink of a mental breakdown. Enlin splayed his hands open. You didn't ask. The rabbit maiden had a mental breakdown, and she really wanted to slap herself a few times. How could she survive after going against the heavens? She did have freedom, but she could very well lose her life. I just want to ask, can we defeat those heavenly human tribe and heavenly gods? The rabbit maiden asked with an uneasy expression. Of course we can. Enlin waved a hand through the air. With your power, you can kill spirit refining stage, arcane body stage, soul piercing stage, and heaven pioneer stage heavenly humans at will. Even divine heaven stage heavenly human tribe cultivators can pose a threat to you if they unleash their full power. As for the heavenly gods, the powers of the heavenly gods are severely restricted on the Tai Chu continent. With your power, you should be able to handle normal heavenly gods. The biggest threat to you is the paramount heavenly gods. No one knows how powerful they are. The pride on the rabbit maiden's face disappeared upon hearing Enlin's words. Instead, a bitter expression appeared on her face as she mourned for her own fate. Don't be too pessimistic. Our sect leader is also very powerful. Many heavenly human tribe, heavenly gods, and heavenly gods have died at his hands. Lu Qianhuan offered words of consolation. The rabbit maiden's ears perked up. Really? A thoughtful expression appeared on Enlin's face. The heavenly gods that have died in my hands include the heavenly wind god, heavenly lightning god, heavenly goddess Linyu, heavenly mountain god, heavenly metal god, heavenly goddess Wu Ming, heavenly reality god, and heavenly illusion god. That's about it. The rabbit maiden and the others couldn't help but draw a sharp intake of breath as soon as they heard the words. Before they knew it, Enlin had already killed so many heavenly gods. The rabbit maiden stared at Enlin with shock and astonishment, clearly not expecting Enlin to be so capable. Was she overestimating the heavenly gods? Or was Enlin just too powerful? In any case, the rabbit maiden's concern had subsided slightly. That's right, little rabbit, who had been mysteriously drawn into a battle with a heavenly god, had already accepted this cruel reality. The meeting was over. Enlin and Little Rabbit arrived at the peak of Full Moon Mountain and looked down at the magnificent sect. Here, one could see the vast Dragon Phoenix Lake, the sparring grounds where dazzling spells would erupt from time to time, and the pavilions that were scattered all over the place. The blue sky, the white clouds, the grassland, and the ethereal and lively sect seemed to have merged into one. The rabbit maiden sat on the edge of the cliff and swung her long, well-proportioned legs with a contented expression. Phew, it's actually quite nice to live here for 100 years. Actually, you can always stay here. And Lynn smiled. The rabbit maiden rolled her eyes. You're overthinking things. I'm definitely going to leave in 100 years. The heavenly human tribe and the heavenly gods are so dangerous. My life is more important. This battle won't last for 100 years. And Lynn sighed softly. Looking at the clear sky and feeling the peaceful atmosphere, he said softly, I have a feeling that very soon, this battle will end. Sigh. Who would have thought that the 4 heavenly monarchs of the spirit tribe would have to battle the heavens one day? The rabbit maiden clasped her hands behind her head and lay down on a rock behind her. She looked up into the sky, and her white dress clung tightly to her body, inadvertently revealing her voluptuous and sexy figure. So, heavenly monarch Xiling, can you tell me what it's like outside of the Taichu continent? What's the deal with the spirit tribe outside of the Taichu continent? Enlin asked. The rabbit maiden shot a glance at Enlin. You asked me out just to ask this question? What else? Enlin turned to look at the rabbit maiden lying beside him. The woman was completely defenseless. Her slightly bulging breasts, her slender waist, her casually bent and crossed long legs, and her bare toes were still swaying casually. Under the sunlight, they shone with a crystal-like luster. Everything was so harmonious and wonderful. Enlin was completely unable to tell that she was a spirit body. Instead, she looked more like a life form that had been fused with her consciousness and body. Enlin had felt the rabbit maiden's hand before, and it was soft and warm. Furthermore, it was a lot smoother than the average human's hand. Apparently, this was due to the fact that after attaining phenomenal success in soul cultivation, one's life force could be combined into one, thereby allowing one to switch between an ethereal and a physical body. According to our customs, we can't tell you about this. However, I can tell you in secret as long as you promise to keep it a secret. The rabbit maiden smiled. Enlin listened with rapt attention. The rabbit maiden continued in a slow voice. Outside of the Taichu continent is a boundless realm of stars. You're very curious about the outside world of the Taichu continent, but living beings outside of the realm of stars are even more curious about the Taichu continent. Why do you say that? Enlin was perplexed. The rabbit maiden replied, because the Taichu continent is the center of the realm of stars. It is the most powerful and prosperous place in the entire realm of stars, with countless races and powerful beings, and Lin was astonished. Was the Taichu continent that bad *SS? I only know that in order to protect the Taichu continent, Pangu set up a paramount restriction on the outermost perimeter of the Taichu continent, which prevents almost all living beings from entering or exiting the continent. And Lin replied, Protect the Taichu continent? The rabbit maiden chuckled. It's actually the other way around. It's to protect all living beings in the realm of stars outside of the Taichu continent. Any Tao integration stage, being from the Taichu continent, could bring disaster to all of the other planets. Look at you. You're just one of the 4 heavenly monarchs of the spirit tribe, but you're already so powerful. And Lin stared at the rabbit maiden with incredulity etched on his face. The rabbit maiden pointed at herself with a beautiful finger. Me? Do you know who I am? You're my little rabbit, and Lin replied. The rabbit maiden, then I'll still be your little rabbit for 100 years. The rabbit maiden was enraged. Huh? Wait, why did I say that? The rabbit-eared girl came to a realization and glared at the innocent Enlin. The spirit tribe is one of the 3 most powerful tribes in the entire realm of stars. I am one of the 4 most powerful beings in the spirit tribe, Heavenly Monarch Shi Ling. The rabbit maiden continued. It could be said that I'm already standing at the pinnacle of this realm of stars. Enlin was astonished. So this adorable rabbit before him was this powerful? The rabbit maiden's ears fell limply onto the rock. But I can't defeat Nuwa of the Taichu continent, Patriarch Zhu-In of the Taichu continent, Tao Lord Luya, the Heavenly Lord of Tao and Virtue, the Heavenly Lord of Numinous Treasure, the Blood Patriarch, and of course, I can't defeat the Heavenly Lord of Primordial Beginning, Pangu. I can't even defeat the Spirit Patriarch, who's the worst at fighting. Enlin was a little distressed. Is that why you say you're the weakest god of creation stage? The rabbit maiden nodded. Actually, my cultivation base, or rather, the cultivation base of the 4 heavenly monarchs of the spirit tribe, is the same as the god of creation stage that you speak of. However, don't think of me as a god of creation stage cultivator, and don't place too much hope in me. Enlin, there was no other god of creation stage being as self-abased as the rabbit maiden. Chapter 1787. The spirit race was one of the 3 great races of the realm of stars. The rabbit maiden was one of the 4 heavenly monarchs of the spirit tribe, but she was being thrashed by the gods of creation of the Taichu continent. It was no wonder that the Taichu continent was the center of the realm of stars. However, Enlin wouldn't underestimate the rabbit maiden because of this. Different realms represented different levels of life. No matter how weak the rabbit maiden was, she was still able to crush all living beings below the god of creation stage. Even against the god of creation stage, she would be able to last for a while. Say, what's the relationship between your spirit tribe and the void spirit tribe? Enlin asked. The rabbit maiden replied, in essence, they're all living beings with divine sense bodies. The spirit tribe was more gentle and stable, while the void spirit tribe was more crazy and twisted. The spirit patriarch did a lot of research, and one of the most important aspects of this research was to improve this flaw of the void spirit tribe. However, it was quite clear that he had failed. The astrals are more stable? Enlin was deep in thought. He reached out and gently rubbed the rabbit ears of the woman beside him. They were soft and furry, and they felt good to the touch. He suddenly felt his rabbit ears stiffen slightly before the rabbit maiden glared at him with an enraged expression. My ears are very sensitive, so please remove your perverted hands. Thank you. Enlin tactfully moved his hand away, feeling a little unsatisfied. As expected, the spirit tribe was a lot more gentle than the void spirit tribe. If he tried to do this to a void spirit tribe being, they would definitely pounce at him with no regard for their own safety. I've roughly understood the relationship between the Taichu continent and the realm of stars outside of the Taichu continent now. Even though the Taichu continent is in seclusion, it is still the most powerful realm of stars. The rabbit maiden nodded. That is indeed the case. In the eyes of all living beings in the realm of stars, the Taichu continent is a symbol of power and mystery. Enlin was still perplexed. Panga's restriction is extremely powerful. So how did you get into our world from outside the Taichu continent? Could it be that the spirit realm of the void spirit tribe doesn't belong to the Taichu continent? We're illegal immigrants. A sly smile appeared on the rabbit maiden's face. You're right, the spirit realm doesn't actually belong to the Taichu continent. It's a passageway between the outside world and the Taichu continent. As long as we take advantage of the favorable conditions and use a god of creation stage power to attack the weakest point of the restriction, we'll be able to forcibly open a passageway. At the time, the spirit patriarch entered the spirit realm and even traveled around the realm of stars in order to improve the characteristics of the void spirit tribe. They've also done a lot of research on our spirit tribe and established a stable relationship with Heavenly Monarch Bei Luo and me. Everything was progressing in a good direction, but who would have thought? Heavenly Monarch Bei Luo trapped me and killed the spirit patriarch. The rabbit maiden clenched her fists tightly as she spoke. When I get back, I'll definitely settle this debt with him. And Lin shared the same hatred. Bring me along. I'll help you take revenge. The rabbit maiden faltered slightly before turning to Enlin with a vibrant smile on her face. Are you that kind? Of course. Enlin patted the rabbit maiden's shoulder. What's our relationship? The rabbit maiden was very touched. Enlin actually just wanted to go out and have a look, and the rabbit maiden could lead the way. Furthermore, he had karma to settle with Heavenly Monarch Bei Luo anyway. He had inherited the power of the Spirit Patriarch. So the person who had killed the Spirit Patriarch was half an enemy to him, so he could go and settle this karma. After that, Enlin and the rabbit maiden chatted for a while longer. He learned that the three most powerful tribes in the realm of stars were the Spirit Tribe, the Star Tribe, and the Ancient Tribe. The Spirit Tribe represented the pinnacle of consciousness life forms. The Star Tribe represented the pinnacle of the starry sky, and the Ancient Tribe represented the pinnacle of physical life forms. They ruled over a boundless realm of stars. Aside from that, there were over 100 powerful tribes and tens of thousands of different civilizations. The world was very, very big, and Enlin was filled with yearning. However, there was one thing that Enlin wasn't fooled about, and that was that the Taichu continent was indeed the most powerful continent. At the very least, it was the most powerful continent that the rabbit maiden knew of. The vital energy here is very pure, very pure. The rabbit maiden lay down on a rock with her eyes closed as she breathed in greedily. Not only that, but this place is also very rich in spiritual energy. This is the place where the creation of heaven and earth is the most concentrated. I can imagine just how mighty Panga was. And Lin couldn't help but sigh with emotion. The more powerful he became, the more he was able to sense just how unfathomable Panga was. He had seen many gods of creation, but he was still unable to imagine just how powerful Panga was. Night fell on the grasslands behind the 4-9 immortal sect. Boom! The earth suddenly tremored violently. A gargantuan palace appeared on the grasslands, exuding astonishing soul power fluctuations. Is this the Spirit Patriarch Palace? It's so spectacular. Su Qinyun's mouth gaped open with amazement on her face. Xinyuan, Chung looked up. Who would have thought, and Lin, that you would be able to refine this gargantuan palace? That's incredible. The Spirit Patriarch Palace was situated on the ground, and it was already half the size of the 4-9 immortal sect. One had to realize that the 4-9 immortal sect was no longer a small sect. It had been nurtured by a Grandmaster Construction Cultivator, and there was no end in sight. It was exactly because of this that everyone in the 4-9 immortal sect was astonished by the appearance of the Spirit Patriarch Palace. Streaks of light soared into the sky before staring blankly at the gargantuan palace. This place is so big. I can do many trials here. Bai Ling wore a gentle expression, but there was a hint of excitement in her eyes. At this moment, a semi-transparent woman with a cold expression appeared at the entrance of the Spirit Patriarch Palace. Is this the Tai Chu continent? There are so many people here to welcome me. The Spirit Maiden looked at the higher-ups of the 4-9 immortal sect, as well as the spectating disciples, and a warm smile appeared on her face. Then, her gaze fell on a woman in a fluttering white dress. This was Bai Ling, who was also wearing a warm smile. Hello, my name is the Spirit Maiden. What's your name? The Spirit Maiden felt like this woman was quite pleasing to the eye. My name is Bai Ling. Bai Ling could see a hint of eagerness in the Spirit Maiden's eyes. Welcome to the 4-9 immortal sect. I've heard that this place used to be a trial ground? That's right. The Spirit Maiden floated toward Bai Ling. I know many trials that can allow one to quickly grow, but I also know many trials that can strike despair into the hearts of others. What a coincidence. I know quite a few as well. Bai Ling raised her chin. The Spirit Maiden extended a hand with a smile. I hope we can cooperate well, so that the disciples of the sect can receive better training. Bai Ling shook her hand. Let's work together. Just like that, the first trial strategic alliance in the history of the 4-9 immortal sect was formed. All of the spectating disciples felt like their legs had turned to jelly, and some of them were even on the verge of tears. Mommy, why did she have to let them see this? It was too terrifying. Chapter 1788. It was quite clear that the Spirit Maiden and Bai Ling were very congenial. However, the more they got along, the more flustered the disciples became. Bai Ling's trials often made them cry, and now there was a Spirit Maiden who shared her interests. How are they going to play in the sect trials in the future? The Rabbit Maiden skipped over to the Spirit Maiden in a friendly manner. Sister Spirit Maiden, The Spirit Maiden stared at the Rabbit Maiden, and a memory from a very long time ago suddenly surfaced in her mind, upon which her astonishment turned into rage. Your heavenly monarch Shiling. Rumble. A suffocating soul power suddenly erupted from the Spirit Maiden. She abruptly charged forward before grabbing onto the Rabbit Maiden's slender neck and lifting her into the air. Little Rabbit! Lin was startled and was about to stop it. Don't come any closer, the Rabbit Maiden suddenly yelled. Everyone stopped in their tracks, not knowing what to do with the sudden change in the scene before their eyes. Much to everyone's astonishment, the Rabbit Maiden didn't resist in the slightest. She allowed herself to be held in mid-air by the Spirit Maiden, and she wore a guilty and sorrowful expression as she looked at the woman before her. Calm down, Spirit Maiden. I didn't participate in Heavenly Monarch Bai Luo's killing of the Spirit Patriarch. I was also trapped in a small world by him. Even so, you deserve to die. If it weren't for your invitation, the Spirit Patriarch wouldn't have decided to communicate with the Spirit Tribe and trust Heavenly Monarch Bai Luo. All living beings of your Spirit Tribe deserve to die. The Spirit Maiden's breathing accelerated, and her soul body shimmered with light, clearly indicating that she was extremely agitated. I'm sorry, the Rabbit Maiden said softly. She knew that the Spirit Ancestor was very kind and treated her very well. It was exactly because the Spirit Patriarch trusted her that he also trusted Heavenly Monarch Bai Luo. Heavenly Monarch Bai Luo was indeed very sincere and enthusiastic at the time. It was just that he never imagined that the mask of righteousness that had been maintained for tens of thousands of years would be taken off just like that, and what was revealed after it was taken off was such a cruel and merciless appearance. The Rabbit Maiden wasn't going to shirk her responsibilities. Even though she was one of the 4 heavenly monarchs of the Spirit Tribe and one of the most powerful beings in the realm of stars, she still chose to lower her head in the face of a mere artifact spirit's scolding. The Spirit Maiden was enraged by the Rabbit Maiden's reaction. Rumble. The ground trembled. The Rabbit Maiden was bashed into the ground by the Spirit Maiden, creating a massive crater. Not resisting, not refuting. Just like before, so docile that it's annoying. You're the only one who hasn't changed at all. How boring. With that, the Spirit Maiden turned and walked into the Spirit Patriarch Palace, completely ignoring the rabbit in the pit. And Lin helped the rabbit out of the pit and asked worriedly, Are you all right? A gentle smile appeared in the Rabbit Maiden's face as she looked on at the Spirit Maiden's departing figure. Sister Spirit Maiden is still the same as before. You have a sharp tongue, but a soft heart. It's probably the heart of stinky tofu, isn't it? And Lin couldn't help but complain. The Rabbit Maiden. There was nothing he could do about it. And Lin had a very deep impression of the Spirit Maiden's frenzied state during the Spirit Patriarch's trial. And Lin really couldn't tell that the Spirit Maiden had a soft heart. The days returned to normal. The Celestial Clan still didn't make any big moves. There were only some small-scale battles erupting. And Lin had nothing to do, so he spent his days in the sect. He was waiting for the sun and the bone in his sea of vital energy to be completely digested and absorbed. That's right. All he had to do now was lie down and become more powerful. All of the other disciples and elders of the 4-9 Immortal sect didn't slack off in the slightest. All of them were diligently cultivating, completing missions, and guarding the borders of the kingdom of the 9 states. The Spirit Maiden and Bai Ling held a series of Divine Sense trials in the Spirit Patriarch Palace. The Divine Sense trials included the Tao Body stage, Spirit Nurturing stage, Soul Formation stage, Return to Void stage, and Tao Integration stage. The content was extremely rich and varied, and it could be said that it encompassed everything. All of the disciples of the 4-9 Immortal sect had the opportunity to enter the Spirit Patriarch Palace for free. Apparently, those who performed well in a certain cultivation stage would receive extremely generous rewards. Most of the disciples were unable to resist the temptation and all entered the Spirit Patriarch Palace for trials. They entered with smiles on their faces and exited with tears on their faces, creating quite a spectacle for the 4-9 Immortal sect. Not only were the disciples unable to endure this kind of demonic trial, but even the powerful elders were also dealt a heavy blow. Shui Zhantian went in with a defiant expression, only to come out with a sobbing face. Dabai went in with woof woof and came out with wah wah wah. Little Huang went in with wah 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 and came out with wah wah wah. When Long Outyin went in, his life was in his own hands. When he came out, he lay under the stretcher and muttered in a low voice, "When the heavens give me a great responsibility, I must first torture my will and strain my bones, of course." The trial was only terrifying. However, the rewards were still very substantial. Xin Yuan Cheng experienced this trial and was imbued with inspiration, thereby inventing the soul explosion technique. Sun Yulao experienced this demonic trial, and he gradually understood the sword Dao that he was going to walk in the future. Ada, Jinling, and Jin Yao experienced a top-tier soul power trial, and they were currently attempting to resonate their souls as triplets in order to enhance each other's Dao integration stage. The trials in the Spirit Patriarch Palace were all trials that led directly to the God of Creation stage. Their value was immeasurable, and their influence was also extremely profound. Gradually, this trial became one of the most renowned trials of the 4-9 Immortal sect and one of the 4-9 Immortal sect's signature projects. The effects of the Spirit Realm battle were gradually becoming apparent. A large number of Void Spirit Tribe super mighty figures and powerful beings had perished, and even though the Void Spirit Tribe was trying their best to cover it up, the 4-9 Immortal sect was the one who had done it. The God Engulfing Skeleton was dead, Ember was dead, the Infernal Abyss Emperor was dead, the Chaotic Demon Ball was dead, the Sword Essence Emperor was dead, the Dark Soul Emperor was dead, the Bright Soul Snake was dead. It was all done by our 4-9 Immortal sect. If you don't like the super mighty figures above, then come out and refute us. The Void Spirit Tribe fell silent. The entire world was in an uproar. As expected, the 4-9 Immortal sect had been annihilated again. News about the 4-9 Immortal sect was everywhere, and the 4-9 Immortal sect's reputation and godhood were gradually stabilizing. This was something that Enlin was very happy to see. He loved to boost his own morale and crush his enemies' morale. The human race and other tribes have been able to battle the heavenly human tribe and the heavenly gods for so long, and that was what they needed the most. The sun was shining brightly. Enlin lay on his lounge chair and flipped through newspapers from all over the world with elation in his eyes. The 4-9 Immortal sect had garnered a lot of headlines, and as the sect leader, there are naturally many articles about him. There were even photos of him in his elegant white robe, and he was very pleased with this. The cry of a crane reverberated through the sky. Enlin saw an immortal crane descend from the sky, along with a golden scroll that exuded extremely powerful energy fluctuations. He was very familiar with these energy fluctuations. These were energy fluctuations unique to the Celestial Arch. Is this an invitation to assist in battle? It's quite a formal invitation. Enlin smiled and opened the golden scroll, upon which he was greeted by the sight of the word Earth. Chapter 1789. Enlin's interest was immediately piqued by the word Earth. It's actually my hometown that needs assistance in battle. What happened? His heart jolted, and he immediately read the main information. The heavenly human tribe wanted to destroy the entire human race, and Earth was naturally not going to be spared. The barrier around Earth had already been infiltrated by the heavenly human tribe, and it was showing signs of cracking, so powerful beings had to be stationed there. Niwa had already taken emergency measures to fortify the barrier, But the side effect of fortifying the barrier was that Tao integration stage super mighty figures would not be able to travel to Earth. And Lin knew that this was actually a good thing. Earth was too fragile. If a Tao integration stage battle were to erupt on Earth, the entire planet would soon face a catastrophic disaster. After Nuwa fortified the barrier, the rate at which the cracks were cracking had slowed down. High-level heavenly human tribe powerful beings were unable to enter, but there was still some chi condensation stage, arcane body stage, and soul-piercing stage heavenly human tribe powerful beings who were able to enter through some special methods and wreak havoc on Earth. It was exactly because of this that the Celestial Court decided to send people to defend Earth, and they also wanted to ask the 4-9 Immortal Sect if they would be willing to join forces to suppress Earth. Earth, it's been a long time since I've been back. And Lin was a little touched. An urge welled up in his heart. Perhaps he could go back and visit on a beautiful blue planet. A series of massive battleships were patrolling the solar system, which was several million kilometers away from Earth. The light of the sun and the stars shone upon their silvery white surfaces, creating a dazzling display. This was the Earth United Space Force, and there were a total of 88 space carriers, which represented the most powerful space fleet that Earth had ever seen. On the blue planet, the human race had already entered the era of artificial intelligence. All types of jobs had already been replaced by artificial intelligence robots. 99% of agriculture, industry, manufacturing, and even service industries were performed by robots and masterminds. The human population of over 10 billion had already been liberated, and they could do many things they wanted to do. The entertainment industry had also developed to an unprecedented level. However, the most revered profession was still scientific research. The profession that everyone yearned for the most was still cultivation. This had not changed even after over 100 years. Cultivation was no longer a mystery to them. Not to mention the Peace Sect of China, the Holy Cathedral of the European Union, and the Genetic Alliance of the American Alliance. Even the illusory Celestial Court was known to the world. As the only unknown force of the human race, it originated from the Huan nation. This was something that the Chinese were extremely proud of. The Chinese were also proud of being born in the Huan nation. The world's political power had been simplified into 3 extreme powers: Asia-Pacific, the European Union, and the American Alliance. These 3 powers were not opposed to each other, but rather united. They all had a common enemy, the Celestial Clan, an evil race that wanted to destroy the entire human race. In the undeveloped mountainous region, the forest was verdant and lush, with birds chirping and flowers fragrant. The entire mountain forest was filled with a tranquil atmosphere. It was an ancient Taoist courtyard with white bricks and green tiles. Light smoke curled up in spirals. Tap, 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 tap. The sound of high heels hitting the ground echoed in the Tao Academy. An extremely tall and slender woman in a white blouse and black miniskirt made her way into the Tao Academy. Her long legs were perfectly outlined by her black stockings, and each and every one of her steps was light and graceful. Her name was Sun Luoqiu, and she was responsible for welcoming immortal ambassadors from the Celestial Court. At the same time, she held an extremely high status in the Huan nation military, having reached the rank of colonel at such a young age. As per usual, she was here to welcome the next wave of immortal ambassadors. However, she was astonished in the instant that she stepped through the gate. A middle-aged man in military uniform with a thin figure, yet stood exceptionally tall, was standing silently by the side of the Tao Institute's teleportation formation, and his cold expression faintly revealed a wisp of anticipation. Great General Chun Jinghua. Sun Luoqiu's expression was filled with astonishment, and she immediately stood at attention before extending a military salute to the man. "It's you, little Chiu. You're right on time." The middle-aged man looked at the beautiful and tall woman in front of him and beckoned to her. Come over here. Great General, why do you come here in person?" Sun Luoqiu was a little uneasy at the sight of this mighty figure. Chun Jinghua was the pillar of the Huan nation military and commanded an army of several million soldiers. Even the leaders of the major powers didn't have the right to make him welcome them in person. I'm here because there's an immortal worthy of my welcome. Chen Jingwa smiled as he looked at the glowing teleportation spell formation. Worthy of your welcome? Could it be a celestial, immortal, mighty figure? Sun Luoqiu let loose a cry of surprise as she thought of the most powerful beings from the celestial court. Ha ha ha! Celestial immortal? You're underestimating fake Taoist priest. A crisp, pleasant voice suddenly sounded from the roof of the Tao Academy. Sun Luoqiu looked up to discover a young woman with a pair of ponytails, an exquisite oval face, and skin as fair as jade sitting on the edge of the roof, looking down at her with a slight smile on her face. A light breeze blew past, and her pink dress fluttered in the wind, revealing a pair of well-proportioned feet. Tian Lingling of the Peace Sect. Sun Luoqiu's expression shifted again. Tian Lingling was a top-rate cultivator at the soul formation pinnacle stage, as well as the #1 goddess in the cultivation world. She had redefined the rules of goddesses with her powerful cultivation base. Even short and flat-chested people could become goddesses. Tian Lingling was usually cold and indifferent to immortal ambassadors who descended into the mortal world. So why was she so enthusiastic now? Also, who was this fake Taoist priest she was talking about? Sun Luoqiu was at a complete loss. At this moment, another burst of hearty laughter sounded from the distance. A man stood atop a flying WIRM over 1,000 feet in length with a suit of glazed immortal armor and an immortal sword in his hand. He tore through the clouds and leaped into the air before landing lightly in the Tao Academy. Sun Luoqiu was at a complete loss for words upon seeing the man before her. This was the sect leader of the Peace Sect in the Huan Nation, and Mingchuan. This man had an unimaginably terrifying background, and no one in the entire world dared to mess with him. He was only at the soul formation intermediate stage, but he was able to hold his own against the #1 cultivator in the Huan Nation, returned to Void Stage Yumu, with his ultra-powerful cultivation methods, countless spirit pills, and legendary immortal rank equipment. Senior in Mingchuan. Sun Luoqiu hurriedly extended a respectful salute with a horrified expression. Uncle and Tian Lingling greeted with a wide grin. Taoist priest Mingchuan. Even Chun Jinghua extended a respectful salute. Marshal Chun, I'm more than capable of welcoming people. There's no need for you to come in person. And Mingchuan chuckled. You're far too kind, Taoist priest Mingchuan. We're all from the same village on Earth. If I didn't come here, it would be difficult for our fellow countrymen to feel the care and concern of our fellow countrymen. A rare, gentle smile appeared on Chun Jinghua's face. Sun Luoqiu's heart trembled upon hearing this. Even the Taoist priest had to come in person to welcome them. At the same time, she was even more perplexed. It seemed like everyone knew who they were going to welcome, except for her, who was responsible for welcoming immortal ambassadors. For some reason, she felt extremely stifled. May I ask who the immortal ambassador is? Sun Luoqiu asked in an uneasy and nervous manner. What? You don't know who it is? And Mingchuan faltered slightly upon hearing this. Ahem, that's because this has to be kept a secret. Those with too low a rank don't have the authority to know. An awkward expression flashed through Chun Jinghua's face. Too low a rank. Sun Luoqiu had always thought of herself as a prodigy, and her heart was pierced by Mingchuan's words. So she was a husky who had accidentally snuck into the group of mighty figures? And Mingchuan was just about to explain who they were going to welcome when the teleportation spell formation lit up and a series of ethereal figures appeared before them. Chapter 1790. Sun Luoqiu's eyes widened, and she couldn't help but straighten her back as her voluptuous chest unconsciously formed a proud curve in her white blouse. To her surprise, this slight movement drew a resentful gaze from the young woman sitting on the rooftop. One figure after another emerged from the spell formation. Sun Luoqiu couldn't help but look down at the peculiar watch on her wrist. This watch was a combat prowess detection device developed by the top research institute in the country. There was a core within it that was extremely sensitive to energy fluctuations, thereby allowing it to accurately detect the energy fluctuations emanating from an opponent's body. At this moment, The number on her watch was rapidly rising. Hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands. It had already broken through the soul formation stage, Earth, immortal level. Hundreds of thousands. Sun Luocio's heart rate accelerated. This was the energy fluctuation of a return to void stage, celestial immortal. Hundreds of thousands, millions, millions. The number was still rising rapidly, and it soon surpassed the detection limit of the device. Crack! Her wristwatch suddenly exploded in smoke. Because the origin nucleus could not withstand the energy fluctuations it sensed, it suddenly exploded. Sun Luocio was given a fright. Combat prowess off the charts. This was the first time she had encountered such a situation. Her tall and slender body trembled involuntarily. How long had it been since she had felt this way? The thrill and excitement of being dominated by an expert unknowingly surged into her heart. Aha! It's been a long time since I've been to the mortal world. The density of vital energy here seems to have increased, and it's becoming more and more suitable for cultivation. An extremely clear voice sounded. Sun Luocio focused her gaze and was instantly rooted to the spot. A man with a pair of piercing eyes and a red heavenly silk dress with golden rings on his hands slowly appeared above the spell formation. There were golden flames burning beneath his feet, but they didn't seem scorching in the slightest. Sun Luocio was extremely familiar with the descriptions of the immortals of the celestial court, so she instantly recognized this man. This was the top-rate celestial immortal of the celestial court, third Prince Neja, who was at the return to void pinnacle stage. As long as the 5 emperors of the celestial court didn't appear, he was the most powerful being of the celestial court. No wonder so many people came to welcome him. It turned out that such a great god had come. Sun Luocio immediately made her way toward him with a respectful expression. Chun Jinghua, Tian Lingling, and Mingchuan also quickly made their way toward the spell formation with smiles on their faces. Junior Sun Luocio respectfully greets Celestial Immortal Neja. Sun Luocio hastily saluted the handsome man. Fake Taoist priest. My son, your father missed you so much. Senior and Lin has come from afar. Welcome, welcome. The 3 big shots that she respected very much passed Neza and greeted a weird-looking man who was riding a dog warmly. Air. Sun Luocio's smile froze on her face. What was going on? Why did they go over there? Did I act cute again? Sun Luocio suddenly felt very awkward. Hello. Neza replied politely. He flicked his braid and said with a gratified expression, I thought that the moment I returned to Earth, Brother and Lin would steal all the limelight. I didn't expect there to be a beauty who likes me more, Sun Luocio murmured. And Lin, the image of the man riding the dog, gradually overlapped with the image in a certain picture book. Ah, he's that Enlin who came from the Hua Nation and is known as the war god of the Celestial Court. He's comparable to the 5 emperors of the Celestial Court. Sun Luocio screeched and immediately shook off Neza before rushing over to Enlin. Her cheeks were flushed, and her breathing accelerated as she stared at Enlin with an unimaginable scorching light in her eyes. Neza, it was no wonder that Sun Luocio would have such a reaction. For people like her who knew the inside story of the Celestial Court, Enlin was the man who came from the Hua Nation and slowly rose to the pinnacle of the Celestial Court. Enlin was just conversing with his father when a woman who he suspected to be his biggest fan suddenly appeared and stared at him with an intense gaze. He was slightly taken aback, but he still greeted her in a friendly manner. Hi. Ah, Enlin is talking to me. Sun Luocio's legs abruptly clamped together as a peculiar blush appeared on her face, but she was still staring at Enlin with an infatuated expression. Enlin, Tian Lingling. My subordinate is perhaps too much of an admirer of you, and that's why she lost her composure. An awkward expression appeared on Chun Jinghua's face. He was starting to regret making Sun Luocio the person in charge of this reception. Never would he have thought that Sun Luocio would admire Enlin to this extent. Dad, it looks like you've been doing quite well for the past 100 years. Enlin couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief at the sight of the middle-aged man who was brimming with energy and vitality. It's not too bad. I've only managed to create the number one cultivation sect in the Hua Nation, and I've only managed to do so because of an abundance of cultivation resources. Aside from a bit of money, I don't really have any other advantages. And Ming Chuan laid a hand on his immortal tool armor and heaved a forlorn sigh as he held the pinnacle immortal tool, the ocean heavenly dragon sword. Is that so? That's a bit troublesome. And Lin's brows furrowed upon hearing this. I don't have anything on this trip aside from a lot of money and a bunch of spirit rank and immortal rank materials. It looks like there's not much I can do to help you, did Tian Lingling, Chan Jingma. Listening to the two of them exchange pleasantries in a strange style, the two of them felt a little dizzy and disoriented. So handsome, Sun Luochio exclaimed with an intoxicated expression. Speaking of which, where's my daughter-in-law, Xiaolan? Why didn't she come back with you? And Ming Chuan looked at Dabai before looking around with a disappointed expression. He discovered that this dog and his son had appeared in front of him more often than Xiaolan. The formation has been reinforced by Nuwa, and Xiaolan is a Dao integration stage super mighty figure, so she won't be able to enter, and Lin explained. That's such a pity. You have to treat her better. She's been taking care of your dad while you're gone. And Ming Chuan waved the immortal sword in his hand and said, she was the one who gave me this set of immortal robes. And Lin faltered slightly upon hearing this. Xiaolan hadn't told him about this. Su Xiaolan wasn't as rich as him, and in Ming Chuan's immortal rank equipment was probably worth at least a few tens of millions of spirit stones. That was probably more than half of Xiaolan's previous net worth. And Lin was quite touched by this thought. When everyone thought that he was dead, Xiaolan didn't give up on him, nor did she give up on his family. In fact, she was even willing to spend tens of millions of spirit stones on his dad. Where else could he find such a good wife? Don't worry, Dad. I'll be sure to take good care of Xiaolan. And Lin promised with a solemn expression. Fake Taoist priest. I heard you want to cultivate with Nuwa for 100 years. Tian Lingling asked with a curious expression. What does Her Majesty Nuwa look like? Is she beautiful? Do you have a picture of her? Only then did Lin recall that Su Xiaolan had given him the excuse that he had gone to cultivate with Nuwa, so he couldn't return to Earth. Everyone's expression became serious upon hearing this, and they couldn't help but listen closely. They knew that Earth was also known as Earth, and that it was a world created by Nuwa. In other words, Nuwa was the paramount goddess of Earth. She was the most powerful, mysterious, and unimaginable being on Earth. Her Majesty Nuwa is definitely beautiful. She's the most beautiful being I've ever seen in this world. As for pictures, I definitely don't have any. I don't have the rights to her portrait. And Lin replied without hesitation. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. In Nuwa's world, how could he not compliment Nuwa? By the way, I came back this time to visit my family and friends, and also to see if there's a way to deal with the flaws in the barrier of this world. And Lin changed the subject. Chun Jinghua was already prepared, and he immediately produced a map upon hearing this. The map clearly indicated the locations of the cracks that had appeared. Chapter 1791. And Lin looked down at the map to find that there were several hundred cracks on it. There were also about a dozen or so large cracks that could accommodate soul-piercing stage, heavenly human tri-powerful beings. Most importantly, these cracks couldn't be forcibly closed. They could only be guarded by the army. There are so many cracks, and they're still increasing. Najah looked at the increasing number of cracks with a grave expression. Are we going to have enough cultivators? Don't worry about that. Speaking of this, Chun Jinghua had a smug look on his face. Our human technology has already greatly enhanced the combat prowess of our soldiers. Right now, the main forces resisting the heavenly human tribe are the armies of our three powers. Really? A curious expression appeared on Najah's face. Of course, technology is power. Even though cultivators are extremely powerful, there's a limit to how much power they can muster. However, technology can benefit the entire race and create a massive unified army. For now, our army is the main force in the fight against the heavenly human tribe, Chun Jinghua explained. And Ming Chuan didn't refute this, clearly indicating that he was agreeing. And Lin smiled with intrigue. Interesting. I really want to see how far human technology has progressed. Before that, should we say hello to our old friends in the WeChat group? Tian Lingling asked as she waved the intricate watch on her wrist. It's been over 100 years. Why does WeChat still exist? And Lin was astonished. Ha, of course. The life force of the QQ empire is limitless, and so is the life force of WeChat. WeChat is no longer the same version as it was in the past. It has already been updated to 1068 versions. Tian Lingling tossed a blue watch toward Lin with a smile. Here, this is for you. I've already created an identity for you. You can use this star brain to surf the internet like a cell phone. Aside from that, it can also observe vital signs, perform emergency treatment, perform spatial reconnaissance, project holograms, perform super calculations, and act as an autonomous life agent. It's the most exclusive version of the star brain, so it's very expensive. Make sure to take good care of it. Tian Lingling instructed with a serious expression. Oh, this little thing actually has so many functions? And Lin put on the star brain that looked like a watch, and the look of interest on his face became even more intense. Only then did he notice that in Mingchuan, Chun Jinghua, and Sun Luoqiu also had similar watches on their wrists. It appeared that these were the watches that had replaced human cell phones. An envious expression appeared on Sun Luoqiu's face. At her level, she wouldn't even be able to buy the limited edition starputer in Lin's hands, even if she worked hard for another 10 years. However, Tian Lingling had casually gifted one to Lin. Of course, Tian Lingling appeared to be very generous and nonchalant on the surface, but she was actually feeling extremely pained in her heart. The value of Chinese currency was becoming more and more important. With Chinese currency, one could buy technological products that many cultivators covet. Because of this, it was not easy to earn RMB. This limited edition Starbrain watch cost 1/3 of her savings. She herself was using a lower-level Starbrain, and Lin put on the watch, and a piece of information flowed into his brain. In an instant, he understood how to use the Starbrain. What an interesting technology. To think that it can transfer information without harming anyone. And Lin nodded with approval on his face. This is the signature technology of the limited edition Starbrain. Normal Starbrains don't even have this technology. Sun Luoqiu spoke with an envious expression, and Lin twisted his wrist, and a rectangular screen materialized from particles of light appeared directly above the watch. He pinched the holographic screen between his fingers and was able to adjust the position of the screen to suit him. He could also zoom in and out as well. It was a very user-friendly process. Ding dong. A crisp chime sounded. Tian Lingling had invited fake Taoist priest Little and into the All Cultivators of the World Unite together to protect Earth group. An extremely gentle and concise interface appeared on the screen of light. Messages were popping up incessantly, and the chat was very lively. Scholar, Soaring Dragon. My arm was severed by the heavenly human tribe, and I urgently need an immortal with superior medical skills. Genetic Ghost King, I'll come. I'll wait for you at the headquarters of the American Genetic Alliance. A peculiar expression flashed through in Lin's eyes. There were foreigners in the group? Had all cultivators become internationalized? Light Particle Bomb Fairy, sigh, another depressing day. The Savior, Sister Light Particle Bomb, be more optimistic. Didn't you just obtain a low-rank spirit tool? Why are you depressing again? Light Particle Bomb Fairy sent an emoticon of a heavenly human with tears streaming down her face after her *S had been punctured by a spirit tool. My spirit tool is too dirty. It always smells bad when I use it. The Savior. Atomic Bomb Fairy chortled with glee. Who told you to treat your enemies like this? Light Particle Bomb Fairy. I want to sell a spirit tool. Who wants it? The Savior. I can't afford it, bye-bye. Crack Shot Clairvoyant. I can't afford it. Green River Sword Immortal sent an image of a heavenly human with his head separated from his body. Turn around, Big Boss. And Lin's lips curled up involuntarily as he looked at the familiar and unfamiliar numbers. The style of this group was just as familiar as before. As for the notification that he had entered the group, it was quickly pushed up, and no one seemed to have noticed it. Dongfang Shui. I'm having a concert tonight. It's going to be held at the Land of Stars in Shanghai. Immediately afterward, a photo appeared in the chat box. A beautiful and refined woman with flowing white hair stood on the stage. Her expression was calm and tranquil, and behind her was a resplendent starry sky. The savior. I'll definitely go to Ms. Dongfang Shui's concert. Green River Sword Immortal. Me too. I love Dongfang Shui the most. Northern Han Enlightened. I want to add one. Add one. Golden Jade. I have a question. Do you still have tickets? As soon as Dongfang Shui appeared, all of the other members of the group immediately popped up. Any cultivator in the group who wants to go can get the innermost tickets. Dongfang Shui covered her mouth as she giggled, and Lin's heart stirred, and he clicked on the photo that Dongfang Shui had sent. The scenery before his eyes instantly changed, and a dazzling starry sky appeared before him. An exquisitely beautiful woman seemed to have really appeared before him, and she was smiling at him. Is this a holographic projection? It's so realistic, I feel like I'm actually there. And Lin couldn't help but reach out to touch the woman before him, only to find nothing. Haha, do you want to go to Big Sister Dongfang's concert? Her singing skills are getting better and better. Tian Lingling chuckled. He recalled that he really liked Dongfang Shui's singing, and her voice was indeed very beautiful. And Lin didn't even get a chance to say anything before Tian Lingling sent an excited message in the group. Tian Lingling, Big Sister Dongfang, leave 2 tickets for me. I want to go with fake Taoist priest. Dongfang Shui smiled. All right, leave 2 tickets for Little Ling to go with fake Taoist priest. Huh? Who's fake Taoist priest? I think I just saw a message from fake Taoist priest Little Ling. Is he a new cultivator? Why don't you introduce him? Scholar Tai Bai was confused. Dongfang Shui. Oh, fake Taoist priest. He looks so familiar. I think he's... In the group, a group of cultivators who had popped up earlier suddenly fell silent. Atomic Bomb Fairy. Holy F CK. The Savior. Holy F CK. Dongfang Shui. Holy F CK. Chapter 1792. All of the cultivators in the group suddenly went into a frenzy. Scholar Tai Bai was completely dumbstruck. He had no idea what was going on. Genetic Heavenly Tiger. Who's fake Taoist priest? Golden Heavenly Holy Disciple. Same question. No one replied to them. All of the seniors in the group immediately went into a frenzy. Atomic Bomb Fairy. A mushroom cloud has already risen up in my heart. Dreamy Voice Fairy. I want to sing a song for the return of the Mighty One. Taoist Wooden Ox. Is the Mighty One really back? Dongfang Shui. And Lin, is that really you? Fake Taoist priest Little and long time no see, everyone. Enlightened Lazarite. Greetings, Mighty One. Green River Sword Immortal. Greetings, Mighty One. Dongfang Shui. Greetings, Mighty One. Immediately afterward, the group was flooded with messages from the other cultivators. They had all become repeaters, and Lin was struck by a sense of nostalgia upon seeing this familiar scene. Time had not worn them down, and they were still so adorable and interesting. And Lin scrolled back to look at Dongfang Shui's photo. She was still as beautiful and quiet as ever, as if she were a celestial maiden who stood aloof from the world. Time had not left any traces on her face. It was a good thing that everyone knew about the existence of cultivation for a singer to be able to maintain her beauty for over 100 years. Otherwise, there would be no way that she was an immortal goddess. She would be a demon. The commotion in the group lasted for a while before finally dying down. After a round of recommendations from the seniors, all of the cultivators in the group knew of Lin's name. Just this title alone was enough to strike awe and shock into their hearts. War God of the Celestial Court. This was equivalent to the most powerful being in the Kingdom of the 9 States suddenly descending upon their small world. The commotion caused by this was self-evident. One had to realize that in Mingchuan's identity as Lin's father was enough to elevate the Peace Immortal sect to become the #1 sect in the Hua Nation. And now, Lin had appeared in their group. How could the commotion not be massive? In just a minute, Lin had received over 100 friend requests, Taoist Priest Xian, I wonder why Almighty and Lin has come? Fake Taoist priest little, and I came back mainly to see if there's a way to restrict the expansion of the cracks on Earth. As soon as he said that, the cultivators became excited again. The Celestial clan had more and more enemies, and they were becoming more and more powerful. This matter was always a blade hanging over their hearts. With Lin personally handling this matter, they all felt that there was hope that this knife could be removed. Taoist priest Xian, if Lin needs my help, just tell me. Taoist Lazarite, me too. I will do my best to help. Dongfang Shui, count me in. I'll help you even if I don't have a concert. Atomic Bomb Fairy, demolition business free of charge. Photon Bomb Fairy, tech side, general photon bomb business. I'm willing to go bankrupt to help you. Crack shot clairvoyant, free fortune telling. The cultivators in the group expressed their opinions enthusiastically. Lin was extremely touched, and tears welled up in his eyes. He expressed that he would contact them if he ever needed help. This group contained all of the most talented cultivators on Earth. It could be said that this was the highest level group on Earth. It was even a few levels higher than the bragging groups of the top 500 CEOs of the world. Lin closed the group chat and tried out a few more functions of the star brain. There were all types of novel functions available, and they were all very user-friendly. There was even a light pulse massage, and it could directly project holographic projections and play all types of novel movies. Not only could it satisfy one sense of sight, but it could also satisfy one sense of smell and touch. Naja and Dabai were both itching to try out a starbrain as well. And Ming Chuan chortled with glee. He had clearly anticipated this, and he pulled out 2 starbrains from his storage ring. Both of them were high-end versions, but they weren't limited edition. Lin wasn't his son, so there was no need for him to spend so much on them. Lin chatted with Chun Jinghua for a while longer about how to deal with the cracks, and he decided to gather everyone tomorrow to familiarize himself with Earth's environment. Sun Luoqiu blushed with excitement, and she offered to take Lin to familiarize himself with Earth's environment. Lin turned down her offer with a righteous expression. He was afraid that she would pounce on him if he allowed her to follow him around. Boys had to know how to protect themselves in this area. The responsibility of introducing the changes on Earth fell on the shoulders of the legal lowly, Tian Lingling. After bidding farewell to Chun Jinghua and Sun Luoqiu, Lin and the others rose into the air and flew toward the Peace Immortal Sect. Lin rode on his dog, and Ming Chuan flew on his sword. Naja stood on his wind flame wheels, and Tian Lingling flew on her lightning darts. The 4 of them flew at an extremely fast speed, leaving 4 streaks of white cloud in their wake. Tian Lingling's body was slender and delicate, and she wore a pink dress that danced in the wind. The neckline was very low, revealing her fair, tender skin, intricate collarbones, and flat, airport runway. Beneath her dress was a pair of white stockings that wrapped around her well-proportioned calves. Paired with a pair of brown leather boots, she looked like a heart-warming beauty from afar. It looked like she had completely given up on her chest and height and had chosen to accept reality. She had been a lowly for over 100 years. Tian Lingling's fingers quickly tapped on the screen. Look, the photon pulse acupoint massage can be activated here, and this is the body condition monitoring system. You just have to tap on this. This is the game entry interface. Naja and Dabai had a lot of fun playing under Tian Lingling's guidance. There were many functions that they could achieve with their immortal spells. However, in terms of entertainment, there were many new games and videos that they couldn't bear to part with. Haha, this Celestial Court Immortal battle is so fun, woof. Dabai frantically tapped on the screen with his dog paws, controlling True Lord Erlang to battle against Naja. This was a real-life battle mode. 2 3-dimensional images would appear before one's eyes, and they would unleash a series of mountain-moving and ocean-filling techniques. Although this was Dabai's first time playing, he was able to rely on his astonishing reflexes and perfect control timing. His paws left after images in the air as he pummeled an experienced player. Never in his wildest dreams would his opponent have thought that he would be beaten by a dog. Most importantly, this was the dog's first time. In the end, True Lord Erlang defeated Naja and threw up blood. Najah, you piece of sh*t. Woof. A disdainful smile appeared on Dubai's face. The real Najah's expression darkened. I know you're not talking about me, but it still hurts. Woof. How do you know I'm not talking about you? Dubai wagged his tail in provocation. Najah's bushy eyebrows perked up. Thus, Najah and Dubai both logged into the celestial court immortal battle and engaged in battle. Chapter 1793. They flew along the way. Not long after that, an extremely grand sect appeared before their eyes. The dragon bone pillars extended into the clouds, as well as the golden piece, character hanging high above, all exuded a powerful aura. Hurry up, our sect leader is back. Elder Tian Lingling is back as well. The sect disciples immediately began to report the arrival of the man on his sword. Whoosh, 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 bursts of dazzling light shot into the sky, forming a few large words. Welcome back, sect leader. At the same time, a beautiful immortal tune reverberated throughout the mountains. Our doors are always open, waiting for you with open arms. You'll fall in love with this place after cultivating here. We're friends no matter where you are, so there's no need to stand on ceremony. We've agreed to be together. We welcome you. Peace welcomes you. We create heaven and earth for you. Air. And Lin was a little dumbstruck upon hearing this. An awkward expression appeared on Mingchuan's face as he heaved an awkward sigh. I actually didn't want to do this, but they have to welcome me like this every time, and Lin nodded with empathy. It's all right. It's all thanks to our sect friends. There were over 3,000 cultivators in the Peace Immortal sect, among which there were over 20 spirit-nurturing stage powerful beings and 4 soul formation stage earth immortals, including Tian Lingling and Mingchuan. The most ridiculous thing was that the Peace Immortal sect even had a return to Void Stage Mighty Figure. Of course, this return to Void Stage Mighty Figure wasn't the first return to Void Stage Cultivator on Earth. Instead, it was a horned dragon from deep within the Kunlun mountain ranges by the name of Ao Leba. At the time, Ao Leba needed to transcend his tribulation to reach the return to Void Stage, but he needed a lot of rare medicinal ingredients as a base. He was very poor and couldn't even find some of them, so he turned to Mingchuan for help. And Mingchuan just so happened to have all of those medicinal ingredients, so he supplied all of them to Ao Leba for free as a gesture of goodwill. Ao Leba was very touched. After successfully transcending his tribulation to the return to Void Stage, he became the Grand Elder of the Peace Immortal sect and a mighty figure of the Peace Immortal sect. There were only 5 return to Void Stage mighty figures in the entire world. There was 1 in the Pacific Ocean, 1 in the American Alliance, 1 in the European Union, and 2 in the Eastern Continent. One of them was Ao Leba of the Peace Immortal sect, and he had been lured here by his wealth. Ao Leba wore a golden robe, and he stood tall and straight with his dragon horns raised high into the air. He stood at the summit of the back mountain of his sect with his hands clasped behind his back as he looked on at the approaching Mingchuan. It believed that it had reached the pinnacle of this world. However, the faintly discernible and terrifying aura that came head-on made him tremble incessantly. The red armillary sash was wrapped around his shoulders, and he stood on the wind fire wheels. His eyes shone brightly. Is he the legendary 3rd Prince Neza? And a man riding a Dubai dog with a stronger aura than it? Could he be? Ao Leba took a deep breath and went forward to welcome them respectfully. Junior Ao Leba welcomes sect leader in Mingchuan, senior in Lin, and senior Najah. There's no need for formalities, Elder Ao. And Mingchuan hurriedly helped Ao Leba to his feet. And Lin nodded with a smile upon seeing Ao Leba of the Peace Immortal sect. Who would have thought that there would be an Ao family dragon tribe on Earth? And Lin had interacted with the dragon tribe many times in the past, and he could sense that Ao Leba possessed the Ao family dragon tribe bloodline of the dragon court of the Eastern Seas. In other words, he was related to Su Xiaolan by blood. I've been cultivating in the Kunlun mountain ranges for as long as I can remember. I have nothing to do with the Ao family dragon tribe of the Kingdom of the 9 States, nor do I have any interest in them. Ao Leba replied. And Lin was quite fond of A.O. Leiba's straightforward personality, and he seemed to be quite a good dragon. Thus, he pulled out a dragon tribe mantra from his storage ring and tossed it toward A.O. Leiba. This mystic tome may be helpful to your cultivation. Don't worry, it has nothing to do with the dragon core of the Eastern Seas. It was written by my disciple, and you can cultivate it all the way to the Tao integration stage. This, A.O. Leiba caught the mystic tome, and his hands trembled uncontrollably as if he had been struck by lightning. Every mystic tome was an inheritance. This dragon tribe mantra that could allow one to reach the Tao integration stage was a Tao integration stage inheritance. On Earth, this was definitely a supreme grade inheritance that could only be obtained through luck. And now, Lin was handing such an important thing to him. I, A.O. Leiba, hereby vow to protect the peace immortal sect with my life. A.O. Leiba half knelt to the ground and extended a solemn salute to Lin and Mingchuan. Lin was very pleased. It was so easy to talk to smart people. Tian Lingling was drooling as she looked on. A Tao integration stage inheritance. How about I try to cultivate a dragon tribe cultivation method and become a little dragon human? Lin pinched Tian Lingling's soft, supple cheeks with a smile. Don't switch cultivation methods on your own. Otherwise, I won't be able to save you if you go berserk. Tian Lingling glared at Lin with her bright, almond-shaped eyes and was just about to retaliate when she heard Lin's next sentence, and a vibrant smile immediately appeared on her face. If you want to cultivate in the future, I can just give you a suitable cultivation method, Lin said. Fake Taoist priest is right. Fake Taoist priest is the best. A sweet smile appeared on Tian Lingling's face, and two adorable dimples appeared on her cheeks. Najah slapped a hand to his face upon seeing this. So realistic, immediately afterward, the Peace Immortal sect held a conference, and the speaker was the young sect leader, Lin. This event created a massive stir in the entire sect. Everyone was present, and all of them stared at the white-robed man with scorching light in their eyes. They all knew who this man was. He was the Peace Immortal sect's biggest backer. He was a legendary figure who had reached the pinnacle of all cultivators at such a young age. Lin was already used to all of the scorching gazes directed at him, and he began to speak to the sect disciples about the past and present as well as the future. Everything he said was correct. All of the disciples applauded with one thought in their minds. Holy **T. I've finally seen Lin in the flesh. After a hearty speech, the sun had already set over the horizon. The moon hung high in the sky, and countless stars shimmered in the sky. Lin, Dabai, Tian Lingling, and Najah set off to see Dongfang Shui's concert at the Starlight Arena in the Shanghai market. This was the most prestigious stage in the Huan Nation. This was a venue that could hold over 300,000 people. The Starlight Arena was suspended in midair, and it was split into 10 segments like a rainbow. The circular stage was situated at the very center of the arena, and it glowed with a faint light, allowing all of the spectators to admire its beauty. There was still an hour before the concert began, but the Starlight Arena was already packed to the brim. Dongfang Shui's ethereal and versatile voice had held her position as a top-tier international singer for over 100 years, and her popularity was still climbing. Some of the top-tier international stars had already entered their graves, but she was still on fire. This was a form of despair for all of the other stars. Dongfang Shui's near-invincible dominance made it extremely difficult to get a single ticket out of the 300,000. Lin and the others all received tickets to the innermost section of the venue and arrived at the Starlight Arena. Chapter 1794. TSK, it's so lively. Lin couldn't help but sigh in admiration as he looked at the packed venue. 300,000 people were gathered here, and each of them was holding a ball of light that could constantly change colors. The ball of light looked like a glow stick, but its color was purer and softer. I wonder how many clothes Big Sister Dongfang will change into tonight, woof. Dabai transformed into his miniature form and followed behind Lin. In order to not attract too much attention, Hijia withdrew his wind flame wheels and wore a white shirt and light blue denim pants. His red armband was like a shawl, and its color was vibrant. His overall appearance was quite unique, and his attire and handsome appearance attracted the attention of all the young women nearby. However, none of these young women would have imagined that this handsome big brother was the legendary Najah. Lin walked all the way to the innermost area of the concert. Everyone who could appear here was an important figure, and the tickets to the innermost area weren't available just because you had money. There were many important figures in politics and business, as well as international superstars. Of course, there were also some people that Lin was very familiar with. "Hi, Lin, over here." A fat man with a round belly waved his hand vigorously. "My savior." Lin also revealed a friendly smile. "Wow, so he's War God Lin? He's so handsome." A few celestial maidens whispered to each other. A woman in a blue and white Lolita dress with golden curly hair and a golden insignia on her forehead stepped forward and extended a slender hand to shake Lin's hand with a faint smile. "Greetings, immortal ambassador Lin. I'm the light particle bomb, Celestial." Lin came to a sudden realization. "So it's you. Hello, hello." The light particle bomb fairy was a big fake in the Cultivator group, so he didn't expect her to be a foreign girl. "Hello, hello." The light particle bomb fairy was also very polite. She had already extended her right hand to shake hands with Lin, but she also began to extend her left hand to caress the back of Lin's hand, and a faint blush appeared on her face. "Lin, am I being molested?" Lin immediately let go of the light particle bomb fairy's soft hand, but the light particle bomb fairy did not seem to mind. Instead, she continued to flirt with Lin with a wide grin on her face as her sapphire eyes glowed brightly. Lin recalled that this was the weirdo who had poked a heavenly human tribe cultivator's ass with a spirit tool, and then felt that the spirit tool had a special flavor, so he wanted to transfer the spirit tool. Now that he saw her today, she was indeed a nervous girl. Green River Sword Immortal and Clairvoyant also made their way over to greet Lin and Ajah enthusiastically. Lin quickly blended in with them. He listened to his friends talk about the 100 years of changes in the mortal world, listening to all kinds of interesting things that happened. He felt that it was very interesting and very intimate. Not long after, the concert lights suddenly dimmed. The land of starlight suddenly fell into darkness. "Shwere! Snow! Shwere!" 300,000 people shouted the same name at the same time. Even Lin's expression changed slightly at the sight of such a massive commotion. Under the bright moon, a beautiful and refined woman in a white dress descended from the sky with an ink paper umbrella. She was like a celestial maiden who had descended into the mortal world. The melodious voice suddenly rang out, and the clear and melodious voice brought the audience into a strange world. Even Lin was stunned by the fact that her voice had been amplified from the get-go. After the song, the audience still hadn't come to their senses. They were silent for over 10 seconds before thunderous applause and cheers erupted. Dongfang Shui waved to the enthusiastic audience before suddenly speaking. "Shui is very happy today. A friend that I haven't seen for a long time has suddenly returned. I just happened to prepare a special song for him." The audience instantly became excited upon hearing this. "A new song. Shui finally has a new song. I can't wait. I wonder who her friend is. Wah, I'm jealous. Shui, Shui." The audience erupted into a frenzy upon hearing Dongfang Shui's words. However, Dongfang Shui's gaze fell upon a man in the audience, and, as if she had traveled through time, a tranquil smile appeared on her face. "This song of mine is called Fleeting Dream." The lights suddenly dimmed again. The previously raucous audience also fell silent. The audience was still quite well-mannered. A battlefield full of devastation appeared on the stage. And Lin could see that the color of heaven and earth had changed. The crimson sun was on the horizon, and the earth was covered in a gloomy glow. A sorrowful melody began to play. Dongfang Shui was a student who had survived the battle. Her teacher, her classmates, and her family had all perished in that battle. She held fresh flowers in her hands as she sang on the battlefield that was filled with blood and death. Her voice was first high-pitched, then it became peaceful as if she were about to fall asleep. Ding-ling-ling, ding-ling-ling. It was as if the wind was blowing wind chimes. Then, it gradually turned into the bell, signaling the end of class. Dongfang Shui awoke from her dream with a start, only to discover that it was all a nightmare. Her singing began to become more lively. However, good times didn't last. After a period of peace and happiness, for some reason, she appeared on the battlefield once again. And Lin listened to her singing and watched the scenes change one by one. He found it very interesting. He understood this song. She was a very pitiful girl. One day, she discovered that her dreams were becoming clearer and clearer. No matter what she did in her dreams, she would wake up with a deep impression of it, as if she had really done it. However, in contrast, her reality became more and more blurry. When she woke up the next day, she would often forget what she had done the day before. Her dreams and reality seemed to be undergoing a strange change. Reality was slowly moving further and further away from her. Even if everything was real, even if everything felt very real, everything would become very blurry afterwards. The dream was drawing closer and closer to her. Even if she knew it was fake, the fake was becoming more and more real. Her sight, hearing, touch, smell, and taste were all becoming more and more realistic. She was struggling between reality and her dreams. Gradually, she forgot which was a dream and which was reality. The song ended. Dongfang Shui stood on a pile of rubble and sang a sorrowful song. I had a dream. There was no war in the dream. Mommy's cooking was so delicious, and the smiles of my classmates and friends were right in front of me. What a beautiful dream. I really don't want to forget. I really don't want to forget. However, this dream finally faded from her memory. However, the ironic thing was that what she thought was a beautiful dream was actually reality. The world that she was in was actually her dream. The dream had passed away. What had passed away was her reality. Chapter 1795. This was an extremely sad song. At the same time, it was also a song imbued with an extremely profound Tao realm. Dongfang Shui narrated everything in her clear and flawless voice. The audience was extremely saddened to hear this, and many of them even began to cry from the emotional resonance. The cultivators in the front row were also doing the same. The emotional Tian Lingling was already sobbing her heart out. However, some of the cultivators had incorporated this story into their Tao intent and were deep in thought. Wah, big brother, and she said she was very happy to see you and that she was going to give you a song. But she ended up giving you such a depressing song? Woof. Dabai wiped his tears away with his paws as he spoke. And Lin was also a little exasperated, but he still offered words of consolation. Think about it. If the story of this song was sung the other way around, wouldn't it be a very healing song? Sing the other way around? Naja's eyes suddenly lit up upon hearing and Lin's words. If that's really the case, then it's not simple. This song is really not simple. No, it should be said that Ms. Dongfang Shui really is not simple. Singing the other way around meant that the content of the song was reversed. In reality, she was living in a terrifying war, but in her dream, she was still living in a carefree school with family and friends. In the end, the dream became clearer and clearer, but reality began to blur and fade away. Then, when she woke up, she found herself in a classroom full of books. Her desk mate asked her why she was sleeping in class. She replied with a smile that she had a very, very long dream. It was a nightmare. Thankfully, she had completely forgotten about it now. She didn't have time to be scared or sad. Time flowed like water, and she continued to live like this. Thinking about it this way, this song was quite healing. Of course, if one were to delve deeper into it, they could use this as a starting point to think about the difference between dreams and reality, as well as the origin of life and consciousness. It was exactly because of this that Naja was full of praise for Dongfang Shui. Not long after that, Dongfang Shui began to sing other songs. There were cheerful songs, sweet songs, love songs, inspirational songs, and many other songs with profound meanings. There were all kinds of styles, and she was able to control all kinds of vocal ranges. and Lin finally understood why Dongfang Shui had been able to dominate the global music industry for over 100 years. She really loved singing, and her singing ability was really unparalleled. Dongfang Shui's aptitude was also very good. According to Tian Lingling, Dongfang Shui was already at the half-step soul formation stage, and her domain was also related to sound. It was called the Snow Sound Domain, and it could hypnotize, heal, buff, and kill enemies, and Lin was quite envious of Dongfang Shui. Holding concerts all over the world was a way for her to cultivate. She could make others happy, and she was happy as well. Not only could she earn money, but she could also improve her cultivation base. How wonderful! 10:30 p.m. The concert ended. The 300,000 spectators left the arena, feeling a little unsatisfied. And Lin bade farewell to Green River Sword Immortal and the others and planned to return to the Peace Immortal sect. But all of a sudden, his star brain lit up. There was a new message on WeChat. A familiar portrait of a beautiful woman in an ancient costume appeared on the screen. Dongfang Shui. Come on, let's eat supper together. And Lin was stunned for a moment. At this moment, Tian Lingling had already received a call. Let's go. Big Sister Dongfang is treating us to supper. Tian Lingling encircled her slender arms around Lin's arm and dragged him toward the backstage area of the Starry Realm. And Lin didn't have anything to do tonight, so he allowed Tian Lingling to drag him away. There was a light ball restaurant in the Starry Realm. It hovered high in the air and floated around the entire Hu City like a bubble, providing a bird's-eye view of the most prosperous area of Hu City at night. After 100 years of development, Hu City had become the largest city in the world. Its night scenery was extremely breathtaking, especially when viewed from the light ball restaurant. And Lin looked down at the night sky through the transparent, floor-to-ceiling glass. A series of skyscrapers stood on the ground, with the shortest being a few hundred meters tall, while the tallest were 2,000 to 3,000 meters tall. Their bodies glowed with dazzling light, making the entire city look like a city of light. A series of aircrafts and electric vehicles flew along fixed orbits in the air. From above, it looked like a series of glowing blood vessels. This was the blood vessels of Hu City. It was dreamy, dazzling, and mesmerizing. And Lin, Dabai, and Aja couldn't help but admire the night scenery of Hu City. At this moment, a gentle and clear voice suddenly sounded. Long time no see, and Lin. My singing just then was all right? Dongfang Shui wore a light green dress, and her hair draped down to her waist. She wore a pair of crescent moon earrings that shimmered with white light, and there was a warm smile on her beautiful face. She made her way over to him, and a fragrant aroma wafted through the air as she extended a slender hand. And Lin caressed the soft, supple hair in front of him with a smile. It's not just okay, it's breathtaking. It's super beautiful. A smug expression flashed through Dongfang Shui's eyes, but she maintained a humble expression. Don't flatter me. I still have to improve. She patted Dabai's head in an affectionate manner as she spoke. You're just as adorable as ever, Big Sister Dongfang. Big Sister Dongfang, I've missed you so much, woof. Mini Dabai pounced into Dongfang Shui's arms and tried to rub himself against her chest, only to be slapped away by Tian Lingling. You're still the same. A leopard never changes its spots. Tian Lingling harumphed. Dongfang Shui didn't get angry. Instead, she merely smiled. No matter how much time had passed, she was still a woman who exuded a sense of antiquity and elegance. It was very difficult not to develop a good impression of her. And Lin, Tian Lingling, Bai, Dongfang Shui, and Aja sat around a small round table, chatting and laughing as they enjoyed a sumptuous supper and looked down at the bustling night scenery. And Lin brought out the flower wine brewed by Little Gu from the Kingdom of the Nine States and shared it with everyone. This was the first time Tian Lingling, Dongfang Shui, and Aja had tasted such a sweet flower wine, and all of them were full of praise. Dongfang Shui even began to hum a folk song as she enjoyed the wine. These were a series of folk songs that she had composed in the past. They had never been released as singles, and she sang them for fun. And Lin was fortunate enough to attend her second concert, and it was the first night version. It felt great. After having supper, Everyone flew toward a landmark in her city. The new Oriental Pearl was 88 meters tall, and it was the tallest building in the Hua Alliance. Its two balls, one large and one small, were embedded in the middle and top of the tower, emanating a gentle white light, as if they were two bright moons. They appeared holy and full of boundless hope. If a normal human were to climb to the very top of the Oriental Pearl, they would most likely suffer from oxygen deprivation. However, Lin and the others landed on the top of the tower and looked down at the city below them. Chapter 1796. A frosty wind blew past. Dongfang Shui's inky black hair danced in the wind, and her light dress blossomed like a lotus flower in the night sky. She leaned on the railing, looking down at the brightly lit city below with a pair of gentle and beautiful eyes. Her pupils reflected a dazzling and colorful light. This place was bustling with activity. However, there was also a peculiar sense of isolation. It was as if she was situated in the middle of the bustling city, but at the same time, far away from it. Due to the frosty wind blowing past, Najah's red armband also danced in the wind, along with the two braids on the back of his head. This city is very modern. It reminds me of the cities of the Purple Star civilization. Perhaps the civilization on Earth will also reach that level one day, he said with a yearning expression. Purple Star civilization? What kind of civilization is that? Dongfang Shui turned to Enlin with a curious expression. Enlin explained, it's a civilization that has developed technology to the pinnacle. It was once so prosperous and developed to the extreme in terms of life technology, spatial technology, multidimensional technology, and even Tao technology. Bloodline modification, spatial shattering, spatial skipping, multidimensional development, cultivation, and artificial Tao integration stage. All of these were trivial things to them. At that time, the Purple Star civilization was the representative of the human race. Unfortunately, they enraged the heavens, and their powerful civilization was destroyed in the blink of an eye. This battle between us and the heavenly human tribe was actually caused by that civilization. Dongfang Shui's face paled slightly upon hearing this. Tian Lingling's eyes widened with shock. Such a powerful civilization was destroyed in an instant? Are we fighting against such a powerful being? Najah heaved a forlorn sigh. There hasn't even been a Heaven Pioneer stage heavenly human tribe cultivator on Earth, so they don't know just how terrifying the heavens are. If it weren't for Enlin, who turned the tide and broke through the two heavenly gates, the morale of the Kingdom of the Nine States United Army would have plummeted to an unimaginable level. Fake Taoist priest is that powerful. Tian Lingling was astonished again. Is this the first time you see my power? Enlin pinched Tian Lingling's delicate cheeks with a smile. Tian Lingling looked at Enlin with a resentful expression. Seeing as you're trying to save the world, I'll let you take advantage of me just this once. Save the world? Please don't think that way. I just want to protect the people who are important to me. Enlin felt that he couldn't shoulder the responsibility of saving the world. He wasn't mentally prepared for that. Look, Dongfang Shui pointed at the dazzling lights down below. This city is so beautiful. I love this place, and I love this world, but I'm useless. I don't have the ability to protect it. She looked back at Enlin and lowered her eyes. I'm too weak. I can't even imagine how strong the enemy is. I can't even imagine how high your combat level is, big sister Dongfang. Tian Lingling gripped her hand with a concerned expression. A smile appeared on Dongfang Shui's face, and her voice was still as clear as ever. But I can still sing here. I can dedicate my voice to this world. I can make this world a better place, and I can inspire more people to fight for this beauty. Perhaps this is my battle, my mission. She stared at Enlin with her beautiful eyes. I hope I can make you remember this beauty and make you want to protect it as well. Enlin faltered upon hearing this. Dongfang Shui's eyes were filled with sincerity and purity, and the emotions conveyed through her eyes were very simple. She didn't know how to do much. She only hoped that her voice could make people want to protect this world even more strongly. Don't worry, Earth is my home. I can't just stand by and watch it be destroyed. Trust me, I'm very bad *SS, and Lin vowed. Dong Fengshui looked at Lin with a gentle expression and nodded. I trust you. Whose city was a city that never slept. The lights of the city only gradually dimmed the next day. The sun rose, and Lin sat on Debai's back and began his journey to explore the cracks in the barrier. They first went to check out the largest cracks. Soul-piercing stage, heavenly human tribe, mighty figures could appear in those cracks, so they were extremely dangerous. After all, soul-piercing stage, heavenly human tribe mighty figures could crush all beings below the return to void stage, and a few soul-piercing stage mighty figures could even hold their own against a return to void stage mighty figure. Deep within the Kunlun mountain ranges, amid a series of mountain ranges, there was a place that was shimmering with a white metallic light under the light of the sun. From afar, it looked like a vast expanse of silver light. However, upon closer inspection, one would discover to their astonishment that this was actually a series of mechas over a dozen meters tall. All of them had thick and powerful legs, nimble arms, and sturdy chests. Their chests were wide open, and there were cannons that could be adjusted at will. All of the mechas were equipped with portable nuclear fusion missiles, super electromagnetic cannons, plasma cannons, and other cutting-edge weapons. These were the most powerful mechas on Earth, and all of them were extremely expensive to construct, but they were also extremely powerful. After some testing, it was determined that these mechas were comparable in combat prowess to cultivators at the spirit-nurturing pinnacle stage. In terms of destructive power alone, they were even comparable to soul formation stage powerful beings. There were a total of 200 of these weapons gathered in this place. Aside from that, there was also a gargantuan inky black fortress behind the mechas. It was over 500 meters tall, and it stood on the ground like a pyramid. This was their mothership, a super battleship capable of both land, sea, and air. No wonder Qin Jinghua would say that the main force fighting against the heavenly human tribe was the military, not the cultivators. Just this alone was not something that a top-notch sect in the immortal cultivation world could possess. There were rows of silver mechas known as Hope, and they carried the hope of the human race. The super battleship that stood like a pyramid was known as Dawn. The sun gradually rose. Sunlight shone down upon the inky black fortress, but its surface defied the laws of physics as it reflected a warm, golden light. Not only that, but the golden light also extended outward, instantly transforming the entire fortress into a boundless golden fortress. It had become a true pyramid. No matter how many times I see the dawn under the sun, I can't help but praise it. To think that human intelligence could create such a beautiful object. A middle-aged woman in a white suit with her black hair coiled up high walked out of the simple prefab house. She had an ordinary appearance, but exuded a sense of gentleness. She raised her head to look at the huge monster and said softly, "Teacher, you've played a huge part in allowing such a beautiful work of art to appear in this world." A man with golden hair and blue eyes appeared beside the woman with a smile on his face. The woman stared at the fortress with a slightly entranced expression. It has yet to engage in battle. I hope that it will only be a beautiful work of art in this war.